Hey, tea sippers. Need to get caught up on Candace Owens with the bride of Frankenstein, the bride, the Black Widow, or the bride of Charlie. How, however you want to. This is Candace Owens series. I missed it last night. Fell asleep, but I'm gonna get caught up on it real quick, and then I'll touch bases on Clinton, and then we'll be ready for the third series later on tonight. Hey, Cynthia. So without further ado, since I'm already late, let's chime in on Candace, baby. I tried to watch some last night and fell asleep, but she is connecting them dang dots. Do you understand? She tying them all together. She tying them with the secret society, which, I've already peeked that Erika was a part of it, and I feel like she had already been groomed, and that she was a plant for Charlie, for the state of Israel. She's a worker. And she is absolutely connecting the dots, Bohemian Garden, all of that. Hem, Shem, Kims, all of that. So let's listen. Let me back this thing up. Cause she definitely went all the way in. Let's go.
All right, you guys. Now, I know a lot of American grandparents woke up a little bit confused this morning, wondering why their grandchildren are suddenly referring to them as far, far and more far. I'm proud of us. We classed up, America. We're taking that. We're taking that from Sweden. This series may be dedicated to all the far, fars and more fars out there. I was actually speaking to one of Erika's exes, and he told me a pretty interesting story. I thought it was very interesting. Aside from offering the standard, I do not recognize who this human is at all anymore. I don't recognize the person that she is pretending to be. Very different when we dated. Everyone says that across the board when you ask them about their relationships with Erika. But he did tell me another interesting little tidbit, a little anecdote. One morning, he would often, I guess, speak to Erika about how close he was with his grandfather. His grandfather had already passed, and he's dating Erika, and she's getting to know him and his life and the things that matter to him. And he says that one morning, Erika wakes up, and she tells him that his grandfather, who has passed and who he adored, came to her in a dream with a message.
His grandfather.
I thought that was an interesting story. It tells us a little bit about Erika, because that is a psychology of sorts. It kind of reminds me of when Meghan Markle would spray Diana's perfume on to sort of attract Harry. We're learning a lot more about Erika and her psychological profile, and we are going to discuss more of that in depth today. So welcome back to Bride of Charlie.
Bride of Charlie.
We have nothing to hide.
The Bride of Charlie.
Help me!
Oh, let's go.
Going to discuss more of that in depth today. So welcome back to Bride of Charlie. We have nothing to hide. Okay, so on background, I don't know how far down various rabbit holes you have gone, but if you are a regular viewer of the show, then you are very familiar with the name Aleister Crowley. If you are not, please, in your spare time, hit Wikipedia, read maybe Hollywood Babylon, Chaos. Look, the short and the thick of it is the elites practice occult sex magic. You just gotta accept that is a circumstance at the top. They've been doing that for a long time. They get together and they have these satanic sex parties where they try to summon various demons. That sounds crazy, I know, but it's real. It's right there in your face if you just look into history a tiny bit. And Aleister Crowley, who was once termed the world's wickedest man, would host these parties all across the world. And he even created his own religion around it. Science of Thelema, black magic. There are so many stories out there regarding Aleister Crowley attempting to summon various demons. In France, he tried to summon Pan, I think in Paris. And many times people would end up in the hospital. But probably the one story that ranks supreme is something that happened in 1923 in Sicily with one of his acolytes. Aleister Crowley was sort of grooming a young Oxford student
There go that
to
grooming
become his
word.
magical heir. He saw this young Oxford student and said, "You've got it. You're amazing. Come down to Sicily and let's try to do some spells together." This was a 23-year-old student, okay? Aleister Crowley thinks he has the it factor. They go down to Sicily, and the kid ends up dead. I'm actually going to bring on my producer, Ashley, to explain to you a little further what happened when they were working on an invisibility charm. Take a listen.
Yeah, so basically, Aleister Crowley was convinced that he was able to make himself invisible, and he was trying to bestow that power upon his little magical heir, Raoul Loveday. This was during one of his infamous ceremonies at his abbey in Sicily. But during the experiment, they both got really sick. Aleister survived, he was fine. But the nurse that was helping them said that Raoul became slowly fainter and fainter until he just completely disappeared. And so Aleister buried him in a quote-unquote empty coffin, like there was absolutely nothing in it. And later, Raoul's wife, who was there, she was present for all of this, she blames Aleister Crowley for this. But just a few years later, in 1929, they came out and said, "Oh no, actually, he just died from inflammation of the intestines, nothing to see here."
So I'll tell you why this is important and why Aleister Crowley is so significant to the things that are happening today, okay? What ended up happening was Mussolini, the evil fascist, kicked him out of the country for being a Satanist. Fortunately for Aleister Crowley, this didn't actually matter because he was friends with the elites all over the world, including, and this is just a historical fact, a woman by the name of Pauline Robinson, who would eventually, after spending time with her friend Aleister Crowley,
experience Japan on a journey customized to you. Explore futuristic cities and
8.5 months later, she gives birth to Barbara Country for being a Satanist.
Okay, so
Fortunately
he's
for
a
Aleister
Satanist.
Crowley, this didn't actually matter because he was friends with the elites all over the world, including, and this is just a historical fact, a woman by the name of Pauline Robinson, who would eventually, after spending time with her friend Aleister Crowley, 8.5 months later, she gives birth to Barbara Bush. Okay? This is
Barbara
just, again,
Bush.
a little over 8.5 months after hanging out with Aleister Crowley.
Now, Barbara Bush, who they were saying kind of maybe, one of him Kim Shims. I don't know if that's true or not. But we do know that her husband was a part of that secret society, Skulls and Bones, and also was at the Bohemian, where they be doing them seances in Bohemian Grove. Okay? Stay woke, y'all. Stay woke. So they hooked up and birthed Barbara
Aleister
Bush.
Crowley, 8.5 months later, she gives birth to Barbara Bush. Okay? This is just, again, a little over 8.5 months after hanging out with Aleister Crowley. Obviously, Barbara Bush is the mother of George Bush. Now, this is the source of the rumors that Barbara Bush is actually the child of Aleister Crowley. Now, why am I telling you that? Why am I starting this episode speaking about these occult rituals and the idea that the elites are practicing occult magic?
Let's look at them together. Hold on.
It's because it's important that as we begin to connect dots throughout this series, that you fully digest, as I told you yesterday, that Operation Paperclip was not about rescuing brilliant Jewish scientists who were being persecuted from Germany. It was about rescuing wealthy occult perverts like Sigmund Freud and his boys, referring to them as scientists, saying that they had scientific breakthroughs so they could go on doing perverted things and go on being the elites. The same families have been in power for a very long time. Everything else is just an illusion, okay? I don't know how some people don't recognize that. Just looking around at who they keep trying to tell us is a genius. How is it always the rich people? Do you guys really think that every offensively wealthy kid who makes his butler do his homework grows up and becomes a tech genius? That's just the story that we keep being told. Jack Parsons, unbelievably wealthy kid who created the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. That's the precursor to NASA's Apollo program. Oh, he was such a genius. He was trying to literally summon demons. He was Aleister Crowley's protege. He was doing the exact same thing that Aleister Crowley was doing. Throwing elite sex parties, saying we're going to create a moon child, everyone, sex, drugs. Look, Elon Musk seems like a nice guy, but do I believe he's running 17 trillionaire dollar companies at the same time while also having 49 baby mamas? No, I don't accept that. Bill Gates, that one bothers me the most. Oh my God, shocker, he's in the Epstein files. Look at him, people. Throwing elite sex parties, saying we're going to create a moon child, everyone, sex, drugs.
Oh, wow.
Look, Elon Musk seems like a nice guy, but do I believe he's running 17 trillionaire dollar companies at the same time while also having 49 baby mamas? No, I don't accept that. Bill Gates, that one bothers me the most. Oh my God, shocker, he's in the Epstein files. Look at him, people. Look at him. Look at his face. Of course he's in the Epstein files. You really think this guy is just such a genius? He went from computers to pharmaceuticals to poisoning African kids. He's just so genius. Yeah, I'm troubled the most by people who ever bought that man was smart. Poor and middle class people know we can never go on to become geniuses. It doesn't work like that. Now I want everyone to just wake up from this occult spell of thinking that these people are smarter than you. They are not. Natural geniuses, which do exist, like Charlie Kirk, you have to either play ball with the elites, meaning hand over whatever it is that you have built to fulfill our ends. Let us be in control of the message. What you're doing is big. We want in. Or if you say no, you wind up dead. That's how the world works. And the military is responsible for keeping particular families in power. It's pretty much eugenics at the top and social engineering at the bottom. And we have proven over and over again as a society that we are subject to psychology. Our minds are malleable. They've trained us via marketing to poison ourselves so that we can't have more offspring, aggressive marketing campaigns, propaganda, repeat promises of scientific breakthroughs. Scientific breakthrough, oh my God, we had no idea it caused cancer. What do you mean she can't get pregnant? We're so shocked. This is what the military does best, okay? Psychological operations. You've seen it in this entire lead up to Erika Kirk. It is part of the reason I believe, I don't know if you've thought about this a lot like I have, why did the military choose to have us all watch Charlie's execution? Mm-hmm. Think about that. They could have just poisoned his drink or something, done their standard,
They got to do it so everybody can see it.
I don't know. But no, they wanted us to watch it. They wanted to make sure that we all watched it and we had emotional reaction and that they could sort of harness our emotions to get behind Erika. Right? Erika, that was where it was supposed to go. You watched it. She's the widow. That's why they just keep saying the thing. She's the grieving widow. She's a grieving widow. Never mind everything that she's doing right now. Never mind the lack of concern that she seems to have for this investigation. Me sitting down with her and her speaking about Charlie and never is emotion coming up. And she's like, yeah, I like to work. But then when I see the first trace of emotion, it's about her mother, who's alive. Charlie's dead. Was dead. Everyone recognized something was off about that. The way that they are defending her is crazy. I've never seen anything like it. I could do 27,000 series, like I said, about Hillary Clinton. They wouldn't care. They wouldn't care at all. But Erika, my goodness, there is something there. You cannot touch or speak about it because, well, they cast a spell. What's wrong with you guys? Well, anyway, let's quickly recap the military connections that we've already established in the Erika Kirk story, right? So we learned that Erika was born at the Good Samaritan Hospital on either the 20th or the 22nd of November of 1988. It depends on who's telling the story. Is it Erika? Is it Lori? Is it Erika's dad? a hospital graciously gifted by the Marine Corps after they were kind of caught experimenting on human brains, because who among us hasn't been caught experimenting on human brains unethically? Youth, I guess, is wasted on the young. You should also know that Morfar or Farfar, Carl Kenneth, was himself a military man. He served in the Army Corps of Engineers. And I have to tell you, having looked through so many people's stories, I do believe that the Army Corps of Engineers is not always engineering, planes. I think sometimes they're just engineering society. Social engineering is what they're into. I'm not speaking about Carl Kenneth specifically, but that's very obviously one element of our military. Now, Erika's father and her mother, Lori and Kent Fronsvay, as we learned, were married in Marblehead, Massachusetts. We still cannot find a single shred of proof regarding that union having taken place, but we do acknowledge that it is the birthplace of the Marine Corps aviation, although whether that marriage took place in the 80s, whether that marriage took place in the 90s, or whether that marriage took place at all, we will see if we can discover throughout this series. But today, I would like to discuss with you guys Kent Fronsvay's first wife. This woman is very important. The woman that he married before Lori, in my opinion, is one of the more compelling characters in this story because she's very powerful, she's very connected, and she has quite a peculiar background. And ultimately, her life, despite the fact that she married Kent first, is going to plug right into Erika's life. This woman's name was, she died 2 years ago, Dr. Jerry Fronsvay. The kid who makes his butler do his homework, grows up, and becomes a tech genius. That's just the story that we keep being told. Jack Parsons, unbelievably wealthy kid who created the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. That's the precursor to NASA's Apollo program. Oh, he was such a genius. He was trying to literally summon demons. He was Aleister Crowley's protege. He was doing the exact same thing that Aleister Crowley was doing. Throwing elite sex parties, saying we're going to create a moon child, everyone, sex, drugs. Look, Elon Musk seems like a nice guy, but do I believe he's running 17 trillionaire dollar companies at the same time while also having 49 baby mamas? No, I don't accept that. Bill Gates, that one bothers me the most. Oh my God, shocker, he's in the Epstein files. Look at him, people. Look at him. Look at his face. Of course he's in the Epstein files. You really think this guy is just such a genius? He went from computers to pharmaceuticals to poisoning African kids. He's just so genius. Yeah, I'm troubled the most by people who ever thought that man was smart. Poor and middle class people know we can never go on to become geniuses. It doesn't work like that. Now I want everyone to just wake up from this occult spell of thinking that these people are smarter than you. They are not. Natural geniuses, which do exist, like Charlie Kirk, you have to either play ball with the elites, meaning hand over whatever it is that you have built to fulfill our ends. Let us be in control of the message. What you're doing is big. We want in. Or if you say no, you wind up dead. That's how the world works. And the military is responsible for keeping particular families in power. It's pretty much eugenics at the top and social engineering at the bottom. And we have proven over and over again as a society that we are subject to psychology. Our minds are malleable. They've trained us via marketing to poison ourselves so that we can't have more offspring, aggressive marketing campaigns, propaganda, repeat promises of scientific breakthroughs.
I ain't never seen so much control in my life.
It caused cancer. What do you mean she can't get pregnant? We're so shocked. This is what the military does best, okay? Psychological operations. You've seen it in this entire lead up to Erika Kirk. It is part of the reason I believe, I don't know if you thought about this a lot like I have, why did the military choose to have us all watch Charlie's execution? Think about that. They could have just poisoned his drink or something, done their standard, mess with the brakes and get into a car accident. I don't know. But no, they wanted us to watch it. They wanted to make sure that we all watched it and we had an emotional reaction and that they could sort of harness our emotions to get behind Erika, right? Erika, that was where it was supposed to go. You watched it. She's the widow. That's why they just keep saying the thing. She's the grieving widow. She's a grieving widow. Never mind everything that she's doing right now. Never mind the lack of concern that she seems to have for this investigation. Me sitting down with her and her speaking about Charlie, and never is emotion coming up. And she's like, yeah, I like to work. But then when I see the first trace of emotion, it's about her mother, who's alive. Charlie's dead. Charlie's dead. Everyone recognized something was off about that. The way that they are defending her is crazy. I've never seen anything like it. I could do 27,000 series, like I said, about Hillary Clinton. They wouldn't care. They wouldn't care at all. But Erika, my goodness, there is something there. You cannot touch or speak about it because, well, they cast a spell. What's wrong with you guys? Well, anyway, let's quickly recap the military connections that we've already established in the Erika Kirk story, right? So we learned that Erika was born at the Good Samaritan Hospital on either the 20th or the 22nd of November of 1988. It depends on who's telling the story. Is it Erika? Is it Lori? Is it Erika's dad?
A bunch of lies.
A hospital graciously gifted by the Marine Corps after they were kind of caught experimenting on human brains, because who among us hasn't been caught experimenting on human brains unethically? Youth, I guess, is wasted on the young. You should also know that Far, Carl Kenneth, was himself a military man. He served in the Army Corps of Engineers. And I have to tell you, having looked through so many people's stories, I do believe that the Army Corps of Engineers is not always engineering, planes. I think sometimes they're just engineering society. Social engineering is what they're into.
Is she a reptilian too?
But that's very obviously one element of our military. Now, Erika's father and her mother, Lori and Kent Fronsfay, as we learned, were married in Marblehead, Massachusetts. We still cannot find a single shred of proof regarding that union having taken place, but we do acknowledge that it is the birthplace of the Marine Corps aviation, although whether that marriage took place in the 80s, whether that marriage took place in the 90s, or whether that marriage took place at all, we will see if we can discover throughout this series. But today, I would like to discuss with you guys Kent Fronsfay's first wife. This woman is very important.
Hey,
the woman
Nelda.
that he married before Lori, in my opinion, is one of the more compelling characters in this story, because
if y'all not getting notifications, it's because
she's very connected.
Somebody playing with my account.
And she has quite a peculiar background. And ultimately, her life, despite the fact that she married Kent first, is going to plug right into Erika's life. This woman's name she died 2 years ago, Dr. Jerry.
Y'all, it's edge control. Every edge control I've ever come across, it will just curl up, poof up, I sweat.
Fronsfay. Look at Dr. Jerry Fronsfay. I'm going to tell you about Dr. Jerry Fronsfay. She keeps her name. She also dies in Arizona. Everybody's in Arizona. You would have no idea.
Arizona or Utah.
Exes.
You didn't get it.
They seem to get along quite well. They keep doing business together.
I'm a reporter
Jerry
today.
Was born Jerry Pitts.
It's been going
in
on. I got
she was born
a
into
message
a very
from Microsoft.
strict Mormon household. Yeah, fun fact. Erika's father was at first married to a Mormon before he got together with Lori. Jerry's Mormon family is from Arizona, a very powerful Mormon family, but she herself was raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. Jerry also happens to be a victim
You received
of
yours,
child
or you received it late?
Okay? Now, she's going to tell the story in a different way. She's almost going to, when she retells the story, make it sound like a love story. It's weird to me. I don't think a person should be trying to normalize child rape. Or if they do, they probably shouldn't hold any future positions of power over children. Wouldn't you agree? Well, I'll let Jerry tell it. Let's read a bit of this article from 1981 where she recounts her own history. It tells us that at 14, she ran away from a strict Mormon upbringing in Indianapolis to get married. She says, quote, "I was a straight A student and was about to get the worst mark of my life, a C in algebra," Fronsfay said in an interview. "I couldn't face my parents. I loved my boyfriend. We saw an opportunity and we took it. I lied about my age. I altered my birth certificate. I then smeared it with Clarisol to make it look older. 6 months later, we asked to come home and we were welcomed." She was a mother before her peers graduated high school and divorced before she was old enough to vote. Okay, so just to recap, she gets married at 14. Not mentioned is the fact that she's already pregnant. Okay, she then runs away for 6 months to the other side of Indianapolis, uses Claricel so she can get married at 14, has this little shotgun wedding. She gets married to a guy named Carl Pangerl. Carl Pangerl, spelled Pangerl, is 5 or 6 years her senior. I can't really tell. Look, she's already telling us she's forging docs, so he could be 5 or 6 years her senior. And just so you know, he's going to go on to become a bishop in the Mormon church, because marrying a child is apparently not a disqualifier. In fact, she tells us her parents welcome them back into the home. Okay, I guess. Let's keep going. They divorce, and then Jerry somehow becomes a bookkeeper. She gets into accounting. So it doesn't matter that she got knocked up at 14, that she's married and divorced before she turns 18. She's still somehow able to just get a good job and begin a career. She becomes a bookie. She learns clerical machines. And I would love to know who exactly it was that she was bookkeeping for, because I think it probably was somebody pretty important. Because Jerry then suddenly marries some top brass in the military. Her second husband, and we're not going to get, just going to give the facts about him. He's a man named Kenneth Himsel, and he's a captain in the Indiana National Guard. Goes on to become a major general. They get hitched in 1965. Jerry's now got connections. She gets a bachelor's degree in psychology. That same year, psychology is what she is about to become an expert. That's going to be her career path in. She just gets psychology, particularly the psychology of children. It's now 1970. She's 27, and she becomes a social worker in Indiana. And instantly in my mind, and I get it, I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I'm pretty obsessed with MK Ultra. I don't love anybody that was a psychologist in the 70s, especially one that's connected to the military, especially someone that's connected to the military in Indiana who happens to be a victim of child rape herself. I'm not loving it. A lot of red flags here. It's immediately suspicious because MK Ultra was in full swing, and if you did not know, Indiana was a major hub for MK Ultra action. The universities in Indiana were factually involved in experimentation. In fact, Indiana was actually the place that the government manufactured the LSD to drug people with for their experiments. You can thank Indiana for the hippies movement. Thank you, Indiana. Anyway, suddenly Jerry's big time, okay? In 1971, she heads out to Chicago and she begins working for Quaker Oats for 3 years. Now, if you're like me, I was like, well, at least Quaker Oats, we know, hired a psychologist for what? She says she was helping them with marketing. What kind of marketing? Okay, the official story, I don't know, help us sell these oats. And if you're like me, I was literally thinking in my head, well, at least Quaker Oats was never involved in any weird MK Ultra type experimentation or anything. Except for that one time when Quaker Oats was actually going into mental institutions and force feeding a bunch of radioactive oats to little boys.
Oh, wow.
Look at this article. This is our government. A spoonful of sugar helps the radioactive oatmeal go down. Yes, Quaker Oats was conducting experiments on unsuspecting young boys. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Anyway, the Atomic Energy Commission teamed up with Quaker Oats to experiment on children. Now, how long did that go on for? Did Jerry Franzfey herself play a part in any experimentation on children with Quaker Oats? Was this even related to MK Ultra? We're never going to know any of those answers. Put it out of your mind, because in 1975, the military orders the destruction of all of the files related to MK Ultra. So what we have today, which is already terrifying, is just a skeleton of just how far-reaching that CIA program was. But I can say confidently, I've always believed that MK Ultra was tasked with creating.
Why is it always the military and the CIA and, I mean, so how do we reach justice? How? I mean, I kind of heard something earlier about a whistleblower and, somebody, working on the inside, but it's just like, it's just never ending. It's like it is absolutely a full circle, but it just keeps going round and around and around and around. And how can we, the people, get it to stop? Because now it's like, who do who do you run to? I mean, this control, freedom of speech, even messing with people's accounts, pulling them the videos that's exposing. It's just like everybody is tied into it from the top. I mean, people who shouldn't matter, people with big platforms, small platforms, medium. I mean, it's like, wow. And just to listen to Comer come out, that's why I don't even want to touch that Clinton stuff. Because why would Comer even just come out real briefly just to say, oh, he said President Trump, so he just threw that out there so that, no pictures are taken, like they did yesterday. Like, ain't nobody gonna catch the sabotage. So you just threw that out there. You came out there just to say that so Fox News and whoever else would grab that and run with it. Oh, Clinton said Trump never did anything wrong, right? It's just sickening. Oh my God, it's sickening. Very sickening.
Dating Manchurian candidates. I believe a lot of people in politics today went through weird psychology programs. It's my personal opinion. This is my podcast. I am entitled to it. Jerry meets and marries Kent Francevey, jumping back into her timeline. Okay, she meets and marries Kent Francevey while she's working for Quaker Oats. And she's a few years older than him. She continues to climb the ranks as a psychologist, gets a master's degree, a doctorate. Now she's going by Dr. Francevey. And her and Kent Francevey moved down to Paradise Valley, Arizona, before deciding to divorce. Okay? Supposed to believe that, okay, well, they're divorced, never going to see each other again. Maybe. Should know that once she becomes a doctor, she has arrived. She is now going to work for the biggest and most powerful families in the world. Okay? This is where it's going to get really fun, because she begins working for, not even just one of the most powerful families in the world, but it also happens to be a French family. France. I could never do a series where you're not there, France. The DuPonts.
What distinguishes Indian food is its magical use of spices.
I kid you not. She starts working for the DuPont family, becoming the director of employee relations for DuPont, because she's so good at psychology. She gets into organizational psychology. She is tasked effectively, I would say, with finding the psychopaths that should head up the corporations that are run by the elite bloodlines. She goes into partnership working for the DuPonts. Now, in case you forgot, they're also just mass poisoning people. That's what they've done for a very long time. If the lawsuits are telling us anything about, they have innumerable lawsuits related to them poisoning the population, giving people cancer. Jerry's apparently a good fit. In 1983, DuPont completes the largest merger in corporate history with Conoco Oil, and they're able to do this thanks to Reagan and George Bush being in office, deregulating things, making it easier for private corporations to go in and do bigger deals. Of course, we know DuPont then moves those headquarters to Wilmington, Delaware. I just loved looking into her and just seeing that she's the DuPont woman, because I like to pause and reflect on past episodes when I don't know why everybody's freaking out about things, and I just like to consider how terrified they must have been when I'm looking into the Charlie Egyptian plains, and I'm like, what's going on in Wilmington, Delaware? And I instantly hit the DuPont family, And then Erika's out there nervously at MEMPHIS, cracking like not funny jokes about Egyptian planes. She's like, no, nobody Egyptian planes are here. Tell you something, her jokes are going to become less and less funny as we get deeper into this series. Now back to Dr. Jerry. She is then somehow awarded an entire clinic, research center, at Radford University in 1983, a gender clinic of all things. It's a feminist, and she's awarded a gender clinic, and they begin giving lessons to the military. My question is on what? Gender? Why do we need a research facility? Oh, I know why. The reason, and so you need to understand how the world works, the reason why companies might be interested in having people that will come up with BS research for them is because government and corporations have to produce completely fictitious academic reports and studies to justify the psychopathic things that they're doing to us worldwide, okay? You gotta have the experts. You gotta have the psychopathic experts that will produce the reports so that people in power can just unilaterally force things across the population, like the COVID vaccine. Oh, well, Dr. So-and-so, Dr. Franz-Fay maybe says that if you don't get the vaccine, it's because you're a psychopath. If you don't line up and get the shot, it's because you're crazy and she's an expert. That sort of a thing, just giving you an example. She wasn't involved in the COVID thing, to my knowledge, but that's the purpose, right? And Dr. Jerry Franz-Fay becomes that sort of an expert with ties to the most powerful families in America and France. She also, by the way, happens to be a total and complete fraud. I am confident that Jerry Franz-Fay is a fraud, okay? Fraud,
Everything
capital
about
F,
them are
fraud.
frauds.
How do I know? Look no further than this report that came out of Radford University that Jerry Franz-Fay produces pertaining to Native Americans and the Appalachian Mountain. I'm just going to show you the cover of this report really quickly. So it says that who's putting together this report? The Center for Gender Studies, and it lists 5 names: Marjorie Wayland, George Bourne, Richard Castor, Susan Friedman, Jerry Franz-Fay. Well, not what she doesn't communicate in this report is that that's her family. Marjorie Wayland is her mom. Richard Castor is her nephew, her sister's son. This is why they just get married so much, because, and I didn't even look into the other two. I just couldn't, once I realized that the 2 of these people were her family and they're going to produce a report, I just went, oh, she's like a whole fraud. That's just effectively Mormon mafia, right? We've done a report. I guess we can go into Native American, they need feminism or something. We can go right onto the reservation. These women want to be free, something like that. But I want you to sear that into your mind. Mormons conducting research, students conducting research. Again, this is a background episode, but that's going to become very relevant as we examine Erika Kirk's ties to Eastern Europe, because Jerry Franz-Fay gets involved in Eastern Europe, especially in Eastern Europe. What is going on, by the way, with all these Mormon missions? Tyler Boyer, I'm kind of speaking to you, my friend. I know about your time in Romania. I've got the receipts. Now, we'll dig into that. But the reason that I wanted to give you the background of Jerry Franz-Fay is because after this, heading into the 90s, the next thing she does in life is she gets involved with charter schools. She gets into the charter school business, particularly helping them to develop psychological methods with students. Yeah, you know where this is going. Dr. Jerry Franz-Fay is going to be the person that helps develop the Tesseract way. Tesseract schools, the school that Erika went to that is exceedingly problematic. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that after a quick break. All right, you guys, you may have seen the conversations happening online lately. Censorship is obviously back and it's happening everywhere. Platforms are controlling narratives and pushing the stuff that they want us to see. Yeah, visit magisterium.com. Already informed you much you first year. That's just $2.99 a month. Peace and purpose for the price of a cup of coffee. It's a no-brainer. Visit magisterium.com/Candace. I mean, it is just not an exaggeration whatsoever for me to suggest that the Tesseract school, when you look at the people that are involved, very much You can view it as almost a child psychological experiment. I'm going to introduce those individuals to you. Let's just recap Tesseract School in general. We've already informed you Erika will be there from 1993 to 1999. We showed you this photo of her in the first grade. We also then showed you this photo of Erika in the second grade. Erika, by the way, I should note, because we got some comments about this, she has spoken about how her mother chopped her hair off, so that is a known thing because she didn't know how to do her hair. I'm actually inclined to think that it was because her dad was taking care of her at that time. I'm not positive about that, but that would definitely make sense because these are going to be the years that she has a stay-at-home dad. Third grade photo, we have here with Erika in this school. This is without question a school that is being designed by the elites. It is backed by the Bushes and the Waltons.
Hey, Monty.
Among other elite families, they are again kind of getting into government money in a way, pioneering charter schools. You give us the tax dollars and we'll show you a better way to use them. Government schools are failing, right? We're always in that right versus left false dialectic, but the same families are benefiting from it. We're going to use this government money, okay? Now, of course, you're going to do all that. You need to have your elite psychologists on board to help develop these children, how you're going to test them, how this is going to be a different model. And that is why it makes perfect sense that Dr. Jerry Franzfey, who conveniently is her entire Mormon family is from Arizona. Her and Kent had a home together in Arizona, in Paradise Valley, which is exactly where this particular school was. This was the first school, and this one is going to fail very quickly. But yeah, of course, she's going to help them draft those psychological models that, at the school that Erika attends. Now, Erika might not know this woman. She may not have met her. I would definitely be shocked if she didn't know about Dr. Franzfey. Is she just doing the models? Did she sit down with the kids? I don't know. But this is going to be, how they handle these students is going to be described as the Tesseract way. Now, I want you to know who else is involved with this school. Because if you think Dr. Jerry Franzfey is problematic, well, I told you already that John T. Goley is the CEO of Tesseract. He does that announcement about it with Jeb Bush, who is, supporting charter schools. Well, I told you John T. Goley, he was working with Roundup Monsanto on their launch. So I guess him and Jerry's with DuPont. That's a natural alliance, poisoning the population and getting away with it. But there's some other key players here. I really want you to know about this guy named Phil Bliss, who joins the board of Tesseract. Okay, Phil Bliss here, over there in the corner. Phil Bliss, the board member, was involved with Stanford University in the 70s. I'm not going to say, yes, I am MK Ultra. Okay, he was known widely during that time as a drug counselor. Okay, everyone's taking LSD. You got the drug counselors, and he is also working with Stanford's Hospital for Addiction Research, right? He then co-founds a school in Palo Alto, which is called Mid-Peninsula High School. He installs himself as the principal of that school, and that school then has a shooting. In 1996, it turns out that the student that committed the shooting had been working with Philip Bliss through his depression. Okay, fantastic candidate. I don't know. I got a lot of questions about these psychologists. As I said in the first episode, when you look at all these things that are happening, school shootings, behind everything is a psychologist and a prescription counter, truly. He also, on that same campus, by the way, he was on the board of a French-American school, so he also has French connections, but that's just kind of implied now in my life. The person who is going to be running the school as the executive director is a woman named Jill Kessler. She's the executive director, and she says that she moved to Arizona for her husband's job, and he is a pediatric developmental behavioral pediatrician, whatever that means. He specializes in children and behavior, essentially. So she is well suited. Above her is Susan B. Silverstein, who is the vice president of development. I have a very strong indication of who Susan B. Silverstein is, but unless I'm certain, I'm not going to show the face and tell you the background. But yeah, we're just going to pause on that. But we had a strong suspicion about who Susan B. Silverstein is. Like I said, they have done a very good job of wiping anything and everything about this particular Tesseract in Paradise Valley, which eventually shuttered in 2000 from history. I mean, even books. They're like, this book, this person wrote a book on the collapse of it. The book is just gone. You cannot find this book anywhere. I told you already that John Walton, obviously the son of Walmart founder Sam Walton, is a major investor, and he also sits on the board. And my viewpoint is that it is fair to suggest that the school, in and of itself, was a psychological experiment, and the school completely falls apart. There's accusations of financial impropriety, as well as the method which they used to track the success of the students. People said this is a complete scam. The way that you're doing the studies doesn't have any control. There's no control. And that would track with anything Dr. Jerry Franzway had her hands in, because you can't do this. You just can't do that. I also want to say this, and this I'm going to say without any names here, but the family that I received these yearbooks from, and that school then has a shooting in 1996. It turns out that the student that committed the shooting had been working with Philip Bliss through his depression. Okay, fantastic candidate. I don't know. I got a lot of questions about these psychologists. As I said in the first episode, when you look at all these things that are happening, school shootings, behind everything is a psychologist and a prescription counter, truly. He also, on that same campus, by the way, he was on the board of a French-American school, so he also has French connections, but that's just kind of implied now in my life. The person who is going to be running the school as the executive director is a woman named Jill Kessler. She's the executive director, and she says that she moved to Arizona for her husband's job, and he is a pediatric developmental behavioral pediatrician.
Let's look at it. Let's go.
Whatever that means. He specializes in children and behavior, essentially. So she is well suited. Above her is Susan B. Silverstein, who is the vice president of development. I have a very strong indication of who Susan B. Silverstein is, but unless I'm certain, I'm not going to show the face and tell you the background. But yeah, we're just going to pause on that. But we had a strong suspicion about who Susan B. Silverstein is. Like I said, they have done a very good job of wiping anything and everything about this particular Tesseract in Paradise Valley, which eventually shuttered in 2000 from history. I mean, even books. They're like, this book, this person wrote a book on the collapse of it. The book is just gone. You cannot find this book anywhere. I told you already that John Walton, obviously the son of Walmart founder Sam Walton, is a major investor, and he also sits on the board. And my viewpoint is that it is fair to suggest that the school, in and of itself, was a psychological experiment, and the school completely falls apart. There's accusations of financial impropriety, as well as the method which they used to track the success of the students. People said this is a complete scam. The way that you're doing the studies doesn't have any control. There's no control. And that would track with anything Dr. Jerry Franzway had her hands in, because she's a whole fraud. She's just, you can't just have your mommy doing experiments and be like, come on, man, you can't do this. You just can't do that. I also want to say this, and this I'm going to say without any names here, but the family that I received these yearbooks from, they had a child, multiple children actually at the school, and obviously the child is an adult today and has always maintained that he was sexually abused by very specific people at the top of this school. Obviously, I'm not going to name those people. I know evidence of this, but I was very compelled to listen and also to believe that individual, because well, child abuse and psychology go hand in hand. So even if I didn't have his account, I would not have doubted it. Dr. Jerry Franzfey herself, by the way, was friends and colleagues with Dr. John Money, the notorious psychologist who was one of the fathers of transgenderism, who then it turned out notoriously abused children. If you guys don't know who I'm speaking about, as soon as Jerry Franzfey opens the gender clinic at Radford University, or heads up the gender research center at Radford University, she brings over Dr. John Money. This is who Dr. John Money is. Take a listen.
As you can kind of see around the restaurant, tons of art. We relate that to the food. Webstaurant stores helped me focus more on
John Money, he's one of the greatest villains in history, and he is the father of gender ideology. And he became that by abusing two twin boys, one of whom had his genitalia basically destroyed in a botched circumcision. Money believed that sexuality was fluid, convinced these parents that he could raise that boy as a girl.
Hold on.
So she is well suited. Above her
It
is
just went deep,
Susan
didn't it?
B. Silverstein, who is the vice president of development. I have a very strong indication of who Susan B. Silverstein is, but unless I'm certain, I'm not going to show the face and tell you the background. But yeah, we're just going to pause on that. But we had a strong suspicion about who Susan B. Silverstein is. Like I said, they have done a very good job of wiping anything and everything about this particular Tesseract in Paradise Valley, which eventually shuttered in 2000 from history. I mean, even books. They're like, this person wrote a book on the collapse of it. The book is just gone. You cannot find this book anywhere. I told you already that John Walton, obviously the son of Walmart founder Sam Walton, is a major investor, and he also sits on the board. And my viewpoint is that it is fair to suggest that the school, in and of itself, was a psychological experiment, and the school completely falls apart. There's accusations of financial impropriety, as well as the method which they used to track the success of the students. People said this is a complete scam. The way that you're doing the studies doesn't have any control. There's no control. And that would track with anything Dr. Jerry Franzfey had her hands in, because she's a whole fraud. She's just, you can't just have your mommy doing experiments. Like, come on, man. You can't do this. You just can't do that. I also want to say this, and this I'm going to say without any names here, but the family that I received these yearbooks from, they had a child, multiple children actually at the school, and obviously the child is an adult today and has always maintained that he was sexually abused by very specific people at the top of this school. Obviously, I'm not going to name those people. I have no evidence of this, but I was very compelled to listen and also to believe that individual, because, well, child abuse and psychology go hand in hand. So even if I didn't have his account, I would not have doubted it. Dr. Jerry Franzfey herself, by the way, was friends and colleagues with Dr. John Money, the notorious psychologist who was one of the fathers of transgenderism, who then it turned out notoriously abused children. If you guys don't know who I'm speaking about, as soon as Jerry Franzfey opens the gender clinic at Radford University, or heads up the gender research center at Radford University, she brings over Dr. John Money. This is who Dr. John Money is. Take a listen.
John Money, he's one of the greatest villains in history, and he is the father of gender ideology. And he became that by abusing two twin boys, one of whom had his genitalia basically destroyed in a botched circumcision. Money believed that sexuality was fluid, convinced these parents that he could raise that boy as a girl and it would be fine. Long story short, that didn't work out. That boy was every bit a boy. When he was told what had been done to him, it destroyed it, and he eventually ended up committing suicide. Money was a hero because he told the world that his experiment succeeded, and it wasn't until the young man comes out and tells his story that people realized not only did it not succeed, but he abused those boys horribly. People needed to know where this ideology came from. That this guy who abused these boys, made them perform sex acts on each other.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just a colleague of Dr. Jerry Franzfei. I am telling you, all of these psychologists are perverted. They are, I mean, I'm not saying like every psychologist that you know is perverted, but these people with the power and that are within close proximity to the elites, any incursion into history, any incursion into what happened and what went wrong into America
And there
begins and
is
ends
absolutely
with
a pattern.
these scientists, quote unquote scientists, that we rescued from Germany. And a lot of what we know and heard about World War II obviously is a lie, and many things have been covered up. The fact that we still celebrate these people in school, like Sigmund Freud, is your biggest clue that something is wrong. Something's very wrong and rotten at the top. I want to add this across the board. Everyone that I have spoken to says that Lori, Erika's mother, is exceedingly problematic. Exceedingly problematic. They acknowledge that Erika lies about a lot of details, and obviously on the basis of just the divorce documents that we went through yesterday, I can see that Lori might do some things that would not be described as honest. Okay, I don't think she is likely an honest dealer. But what people have said to me is she is the person, has always been the person in Erika's ear. Like, she's this type A person that tells her who to go after in each and every room. She knows who those people are, who Erika should instantly transform into, what she has to say. I mean, one of her exes was very clear. He said to me, I was warned by another person in beauty pageant world that girl will do anything to get to the top, and her mother will do anything to help her get to the top. Her mother herself, Lori, was a model, actually, at one point. So that hunger for Erika to get to the top, there is a connection just based on discussions I have had with multiple people to her mother. And I know that's an untouchable subject because there's always this, well, she's sick now, you can't talk about her mother at all. But to get into the Erika story, you have to know who Lori Franzfei is, and you have to know who this cast of character is around her. And Erika is, without question, a climber. Okay, she is also, without question, willing to lie to make her mother look better. I mean, to say I grew up with a single mother is not true. So why is she saying it? Well, people suspect probably Lori is the person in her ear getting her to say that because it makes Lori look good. She wanted Erika to be famous, but let's not remove Erika from this. Erika desperately wanted to be famous. No one can deny that. Tomorrow, when we now begin in earnest to go through Erika's life, you will see she's never dated a normal guy. She's never dated a guy with a 9-to-5 job. And that's what Elizabeth Lane was hitting at when she was speaking about going through her exes. You can see like she was going to be with somebody. She was, okay, you're going to the NFL, you're going to the MLB, we can be on The Amazing Race together. You will see very clearly she's not dating a regular guy ever, okay? Her goal was to make it, and I suffice to say that Elizabeth Lane was very much on the money when she suggested that that she would have done anything to be famous. And like I said, you simply will not be able to deny that when you see the stuff that we have uncovered about her and the missing years, I'll say, of Erika's life. Very weird. Where was Erika? She even admits she's missing. There's so much there. Anyway, we'll take a brief break before I just show you a clip of Erika just lying casually. All right, you guys, let's talk about something most of us have never even heard of, but probably should have. It's called C15, a powerful essential fatty acid that research shows many people are deficient in. That's why I've been taking a science-backed supplement designed to help optimize your C15 levels. It's called Fatty 15. Fatty 15 repairs age-related damage to cells. It protects them from future breakdown, and it activates pathways in the body that help regulate our sleep, cognitive health, and natural repair mechanisms. Fatty 15 has 3 times more cellular benefits than omega-3 or fish oil. It comes in a reusable glass bamboo jar, and refills are shipped right to your door. We are constantly told to avoid fats, but it turns out some fats are essential, and C15 is one of them. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help support your long-term health and wellness, especially as you age. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by heading to fatty15.com/Candace and using code Candace at checkout. Again, that's fatty15.com/Candace. Use promo code Candace at checkout. Also remind you guys about Nimi Skincare. You know I love them. They're the only skincare brand that I've actually stayed consistent with. It's what I use, it's what I trust, and it's what my routine is built around. So if you're dealing with dry skin, irritation, or more visible lines right now, it's probably not because you haven't tried hard enough, probably because your routine hasn't been built to last. Winter is when skin issues show up the most, and it's also the best time to fix the foundation. The sooner your skin is supported, the better it holds up over time. Mimi keeps things really simple, clean formulations, thoughtful routines, and products that work together so your skin can stay calm, hydrated, and strong. If you've been on the fence, this is your sign to stop guessing and start with a routine that actually makes sense. Visit Nimi at nimiskincare.com and use code Candace10 at checkout for 10% off. The most important relationship.
Hold on, I missed something,
again,
y'all.
Things would not be described as honest. Okay, I don't think she is likely an honest dealer. But what people have said to me is she is the person, has always been the person in Erika's ear. Like she's this type A person that tells her who to go after in each and every room. She knows who those people are, who Erika should instantly transform into, what she has to say. I mean, one of her exes was very clear. He said to me, I was warned by another person in beauty pageant world that girl will do anything to get to the top, and her mother will do anything to help her get to the top. Her mother herself, Lori, was a model, actually, at one point. So that hunger for Erika to get to the top, there is a connection just based on this.
Money was a hero because he told the world that his experiment succeeded. And it wasn't until a young man comes out and tells his story that people realize not only did it not succeed, but he abused those boys horribly. People needed to know where this ideology came from. That this guy who abused these boys, made them perform sex acts on each other.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, just a colleague of Dr. Jerry
This
Bron's
is a pattern.
Hey.
I do mean it's a pattern.
You're a bigot.
Of even with the Epstein files.
They had a child, multiple children actually at the school, and obviously the child is an adult today and has always maintained that he was sexually abused by very specific people at the top of this school. Obviously, I'm not going to name those people. I have no evidence of this, but I was very compelled to listen and also to believe that individual because, well, child abuse and psychology go hand in hand. So even if I didn't have his account, I would not have doubted it. Dr. Jerry Franzfey herself, by the way, was friends and colleagues with Dr. John Money, the notorious psychologist who was one of the fathers of transgenderism, who then it turned out notoriously abused children. If you guys don't know who I'm speaking about, as soon as Jerry Franzfey opens the gender clinic at Radford University, or heads up the gender research center at Radford University, she brings over Dr. John Money. This is who Dr. John Money is. Take a listen.
John Money, he's one of the greatest villains in history, and he is the father of gender ideology. And he became that by abusing two twin boys, one of whom had his
I think I saw those two boys recently and didn't know what I was looking at.
Notoriously abused children. If you guys don't know who I'm speaking about, as soon as Jerry Franzfey opens the gender clinic at Radford University, or heads up the gender research center at Radford University, she brings over Dr. John Money. This is who Dr. John Money is. Take a listen.
John Money, he's one of the greatest villains in history, and he is the father of gender ideology. And he became that by abusing two twin boys, one of whom had his genitalia basically destroyed in a botched circumcision. Money believed that sexuality was fluid, convinced these parents that he could raise that boy as a girl and it would be fine. Long story short, that didn't work out. That boy was every bit a boy. When he was told what had been done to him, it destroyed him, and he eventually ended up committing suicide. Money was a hero because he told the world that his experiment succeeded, and it wasn't until a young man comes out and tells his story that people realize not only did it not succeed, but he abused those boys horribly. People needed to know where this ideology came from. That this guy who abused these boys, made them perform sex acts on each other.
Just a colleague of Dr. Jerry Franzfey. I am telling you, all of these psychologists are perverted. They are, I mean, I'm not saying like every psychologist that you know is perverted, but these people with the power and that are within close proximity to the elites, any incursion into history, any incursion into what happened and what went wrong into America begins and ends with these scientists, quote unquote scientists, that we rescued from Germany. And a lot of what we know and heard about World War II obviously is a lie, and many things have been covered up. The fact that we still celebrate these people in school, like Sigmund Freud, is your biggest clue that something is wrong. Something is very, wrong and rotten at the top. I want to add this across the board. Everyone that I have spoken to said that Lori, Erika's mother, is exceedingly problematic. Exceedingly problematic. They acknowledge that Erika lies about a lot of details, and obviously on the basis of just the divorce documents that we went through yesterday, I can see that Lori might do some things that would not be described as honest. Okay, I don't think she is likely an honest dealer. But what people have said to me is she is the person, has always been the person in Erika's ear. Like, she's this type A person that tells her who to go after in each and every room. She knows who those people are, who Erika should instantly transform into, what she has to say. I mean, one of her exes was very clear. He said to me, warned by another person in beauty pageant world, that girl will do anything to get to the top, and her mother will do anything to help her get to the top. Her mother herself, Lori, was a model, actually, at one point. So that hunger for Erika to get to the top, there is a connection just based on discussions I have had with multiple people to her mother. And I know that's an untouchable subject because there's always this, well, she's sick now, you can't talk about her mother at all. But to get into the Erika story, you have to know who Lori Franze is, and you have to know who this cast of character is around her. And Erika is, without question, a climber. Okay, she is also, without question, willing to lie to make her mother look better. I mean, to grow up with a single mother is not true. So why is she saying it? Well, people suspect probably Lori is the person in her ear getting her to say that because it makes Lori look good. She wanted Erika to be famous, but let's not remove Erika from this. Erika desperately wanted to be famous. No one can deny that. Tomorrow, when we now begin in earnest to go through Erika's life, you will see she's never dated a normal guy. She's never dated a guy with a 9-to-5 job. And that's what Elizabeth Lane was hitting at when she was speaking about going through her exes. You can see, like, she was going to be with somebody. She was, okay, you're going to the NFL, you're going to the MLB, we can be on The Amazing Race together. You will see very clearly she is not dating a regular guy ever, okay? Her goal was to make it, and I suffice to say that Elizabeth Lane was very much on the money when she suggested that that she would have done anything to be famous. And like I said, you simply will not be able to deny that when you see the stuff that we have uncovered about her and the missing years, I'll say plural, of Erika's life. Very weird. Where was Erika? She even admits she's missing. There's so much there. Anyway, we'll take a brief break.
She will admit that she's missing.
A clip of Erika just lying casually. All right, you guys, let's talk about something most of us have never even heard of, but probably should have. It's called C15, a powerful essential fatty acid that research shows many people are .com/Candace and use code Candace at checkout, and you'll get 15% off your entire order. You know, easily the most important relationship, and again, I don't want to get ahead of myself, so we're going to get into this tomorrow, but the most important relationship that Erika had at Turning Point USA is Tyler Boyer. You will recall that when I sat down with her, and I want to let you know that ahead of today's episode and yesterday, one of the questions that we keep
they are some sick
individuals,
but they follow each other. They are connected.
Does Erika Kirk know Tyler Boyer? She couldn't recall that in person. We can't get an answer. That seems to be something that she doesn't want to answer, right? But Tyler's a very significant person because he introduced her to Charlie. He set that up, right? Not a good guy, Tyler Boyer. And there was a rumor, which I will tell you what Turning Point's response was, but and it was stronger than a rumor. It was somebody very much in Charlie's life who said, had reached out to me and said that Charlie told this individual that he was establishing Doge because $10 million was missing. Okay? Heard that. I went to Justin Strife when there was communication between us two, the COO, and I specifically asked about that. I said, I heard this, and this person definitely knows Charlie, he knows Erika, and, you know, is there any truth to this? They said, no, that's not true. Well, fast forward to today, and they've fired a lot of people, and, you know, a lot of people are speaking. And somebody who was within Turning Point USA confirmed to me that money was indeed missing out of Turning Point USA. I can back that up 100%, which is why I'm saying it publicly, that there were millions missing out of Turning Point USA. And they were wondering where that money was going. And they specifically said that the money was missing out of Turning Point Action, which is headed up by Tyler Boyer. The reason why I'm bringing that up and the reason why it's coming to my mind
Tyler
is
Boyer
because Tyler Boyer
again.
has a relationship with Lori. And Lori was put
I
on
thought their
board
business
of
was put in their name.
what's that company, whatever it's called, that collects data and nobody really kind of knows what it does. Was it like AZ Tech or something like that? And I remember when I was sitting with Erika, she kind of brought this up, and she's like, a lot of people want to know why my mother was put on that board, but it was just because we needed a familiar name. That's what she said. Lori was put on the board because they needed a familiar name. I guess there's just not enough billionaires that donate to Turning Point USA for them to have put someone other than Lori, who we are told is very sick, by the way, and is very sick, but they put her on the board of that company. It makes me wonder if that is true, and also why Justin Strife has a different version of events than somebody else at the company regarding whether or not money was missing. There's a lot there that I feel needs to come out. I do not believe for a single second their version of events that Charlie established Doge 7 days before he died because he just wanted to feel Elon Musk and use an expression. I don't buy that for even 1 second. So I do want to say that. And there is something casual about the way that Erika lies and how she lies about her background, how she lies about whether or not she's had boyfriends, didn't date for 5 years. That's not true. It's almost like she glitches and she doesn't remember. And there's an element of that to me feels like information is being downloaded, like she's remembering things and can't quite remember it. And I'm going to show you this clip because tomorrow we're obviously going to get into her pageant days and how she meets Tyler Boyer and the connections in Romania. But I do want to show you this clip of her just kind of lying very casually about how she got into the pageant world. This is her discussing that back in 2020. Take a listen. This is Jack.
I mean,
He's an
always a
and
lie.
he wants to set up a professional website.
Nothing
so
she
his
says is the truth.
Was it after that? That's when you started pageants, or when did that come about?
Right. So the pageant world to me is something that it was an interesting season of life. It was not I was ever groomed for. It was nothing that was ever on my radar. I wanted to play professional basketball.
Tomboy.
That was my thing ever since I was 5. Like that was I wanted to play, and that was all I wanted to do. I was a gym rat, for lack of a better term. And I remember getting something in the mail when I had come home from school one summer, and it was like, hey, you should compete at Miss Arizona USA. Someone nominated you. And I was like, I don't know who would nominate me for that, but okay. So I shared it with my mom, and I was reviewing all the different things that you have to go through. And I thought to myself, if I were to ever win this, the most important thing out of it would be to be able to make a difference with the title. I don't care about the photo shoots. I just want to be able to overbook myself, being able to get involved with the local communities, with the local organizations that are actually making a difference. So the pageant world for me was something that was not a form of narcissism. It was more along the terms of being a steward for my state, especially as it hit our 100th year celebration.
Yeah, that's not right. That's not true. Erika has been involved in pageants from the very beginning. Her mother is definitely the person who pushed that. I actually do believe that Erika loves basketball. There's no question she plays basketball. But this idea
she seemed
that she didn't
tomboyish to
want
me,
it,
especially when
true.
she
It's
walked
so
out on that
objectively
stage with all that
not
gold
true.
and
Erika,
fireworks.
without question, and anybody who's being objective and honest and looking at her history of the people that she dated and the people that she wanted to be in close proximity to, can guarantee to you that this girl wanted to be famous, like very badly wanted to be famous one way or the other. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Obviously, we unpacked a lot, but I just wanted to introduce you to Dr. Jerry Franzfe and that Tesseract School. And tomorrow we're going to really jump into Erika's pageant years and when she kind of, I would say, hits the map. I'm going to answer some of your comments when we come back after a short break. All right, you guys, between groceries, travel, and higher prices, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, especially if you're already relying on credit cards to cover the basics. If that debt is piling up, you should know that you're not alone. If you're a homeowner, you might have considered reaching out to American Financing. They were just exceptional. I just want to shout out all of you guys in the comment section. Amazing. So funny. We were laughing so hard. Just going to read a few of my favorite ones. Okay, the top comment was, Had to hide in the washroom at the Daily. Oh, I'm sorry, you're going to that one first, but I'm going to finish this Daily Wire one. Had to hide in the washroom at the Daily Wire to watch this with the other 238,000 live audience. So good. Angel of Remedy writes, I want to piss off Candace so that she will investigate my family roots because I want to know where I come from. Tanner Wolf wrote, everything they have been telling us is far, far from the truth. I mean, loving the Scandinavians in the comment section. It was fantastic. We really enjoyed it. And you
what
guys
do you
just make
mean?
everything worth it 'cause it's so
What do
fun,
you mean?
even though the media absolutely hates us. And I mean, it's crazy.
What do you mean?
Talk about a psychological campaign to try
And
to
did you hit the like button before you commented?
what they were doing. Just no idea. They were beyond. Charlie writes, we all feel what is happening instinctively, Candace. I feel you are the one who was sent to pull down the veil and unite us all against the elite global machine. They try to divide us, but together we are strong in God and truth. You know what? I used to play that game too. I didn't even realize it. That's how good their psychological campaigns are. Like, they really do make you think you figured it out if you've picked either the left or the right. And no, they are benefiting on both sides of that machine, and it is the same families that are benefiting at the very top. All of it would have seemed so crazy to me if you had said to me, even 5 years ago, that the elites are practicing occult magic, and now I'm going, why are we even in school? We're just literally sitting in a classroom talking about the public school system so they can just work a number on your children and make them think that they're educated and that they should pursue working for one of these companies with the elites. That's the most aspirational thing that they can do. It's so backward. It is just so backward. Intuition Jen writes, it seems really weird and now a bit suspicious that there are so many Mormons involved with Turning Point USA. And Erika, thank you for continuing to go, Max. The Mormon thread will continue to happen. I do want to say this first and foremost. So many Mormons helped me in the Charlie Kirk investigation, and I could not have done a lot of that early research into UVU campus if it was not Mormons running around getting information and them acknowledging what's going on at this university. Why do I feel like the CIA is involved? Why is our president, like former CIA, she has since stepped down, but there's a lot of weird stuff happening in Utah. But in terms of speaking about Turning Point USA, Tyler Boyer is the guy. He's the guy that introduced Charlie to everybody, including Erika, and Erika can't remember how she met him. That's not right, okay? And more investigation needs to be done into Jerry Bronste's Mormon family, okay? I'm going to give you that last name again of her mother in the Charlie Kirk investigation. And I could not have done a lot of that early research into UVU campus if it was not Mormons running around getting information and them acknowledging what's going on at this university. Why do I feel like the CIA is involved? Why is our president, like former CIA, she has since stepped down, but there's a lot of weird stuff happening in Utah. But in terms of speaking about Turning Point USA, Tyler Boyer is the guy. He's the guy that introduced Charlie to everybody, including Erika, and Erika can't remember how she met him. That's not right, okay? And more investigation needs to be done into Jerry.
They went to that university, Liberty University, together.
I'm going to give you that last name again of her mother, Marjorie Ferrin, Ferrin. Now, Mormon families are always big, so this could mean something or it could mean nothing, but the Ferrins definitely married into the Farnsworth clan a few times, and Arizona, there's stuff going on there. There is definitely stuff going on. Tyler is close with the Farnsworth clan. We've covered that. There's a lot to look at, and I can say definitively he is not a good person. And it's weird that Erika is protective of him. That should unnerve you. If that's another thing that was missing in this, is just her instinct to get rid of bad people or people that were pressuring Charlie. She's like, give them main stage. These are my allies. My allies are Charlie's enemies. I don't know. None of that's normal. None of that is normal. And if I find out the Turning Point action was indeed for a fact and not allegedly, and I feel like it is, like, I'm getting this from Turning Point USA, right? It was actually missing around $10 million. Two separate people saying that, one in their personal life saying that, and now someone in their professional life saying that. And Erika is covering for that. I am just, it's just going to get even bigger. This is just going to get, we just need to keep the pressure and get to the bottom of what happened. Jennifer Hofer writes, the young boy was David, the young boys who were abused. or David and Bruce Reimer. I'm from Manitoba, a small town outside of Winnipeg. It is a very dark story, yes, absolutely, of what Dr. John Money did to those twins. And there's so
What's
much
their
evil that
name? Because
happened. The
I
media did
seen them
not cover it well. I
recently.
pray he is actually missing around $10 million. Two separate people saying that, one in their personal life saying that, and now someone in their professional life saying that. And Erika is covering for that. Man, I am just, it's just going to get even bigger. This is just going to get, we just need to keep the pressure and get to the bottom of what happened. Jennifer Hofer writes, the young boy was David, the young boys who were abused were David and Bruce Reimer.
Reimer. Has anybody heard about David and Bruce? I think there are some. Let me try to pull it up, because especially in my feed on the other side, they be getting to the juice. Who is that? Must enter rehab. Hold on. Before I get ready to go, let me go here. I'm looking, y'all. I'm trying to see what's going on. With these ill-begotten doctors trying to be God. Rhyr. I don't know if that's spelled right. Hold on. Let's pump up the volume. Y'all want to hit the like button for me?
I'm Steve Ballmer, former Microsoft CEO and a basketball fanatic. But more than anything, I'm a data guy. That's why I created USA Facts, to bring you unbiased and non-partisan.
How did that?
What? Gift cards are super scammy?
Wait a minute. Where did it go? Y'all, wait a minute now. All I did was, have they removed it? I was here. Here's a video. I'm trying to get to it. Well, let me try another way. Okay. Hold on. They don't want me to get it, y'all. So is it gone? So this was a whole experiment. Let's see. Oh, wow. Hold on. Let's go here.
At iHerb, get 20% off Wellness Champions. Featured brands powering everyday wellness, from daily essentials to trusted favorites.
Okay, hold on. Let's go here. We here now. Hold on.
John Money. This is a name everybody should know, but apparently very few do. He can be considered the very founder of modern gender theory and the trans movement, but is mostly based on a lie. This is a man whose work should theoretically be mentioned by feminists, but is largely ignored or swept under the rug due to the ethical and scientific controversies surrounding him. And when you're going to learn about David Reimer, everything will become very clear. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, because if you type in John Money in Google, at first glance, nothing is out of the ordinary, but if you dig a little bit deeper, things start to become pretty disturbing. This is the story of John Money, the guy everybody should know about, but don't.
Let's put him
John
on.
Money was born in 1921 in a small place in New Zealand.
Let's stop.
Called
Let's put him on the big screen.
Winnipeg
Hold
is
on.
a very dark story. Yes, absolutely.
Hold on.
I will fast forward a decade or two. Now, he immigrated to the United States in 1947 and received his PhD from Harvard University in 1952. John was a prominent psychologist and sexuologist.
Let's bring him up.
Was pronounced. By the early 1950s, he finished his studies and was already starting to be famous for his new ideas. At Harvard, John spent a lot of time thinking about what makes boys boys and girls girls. He had a big new idea. Being a boy or a girl.
This is what they doing.
It was among the very
This is why
first
you
people
see them. They be
to
saying,
reach
that's a
gender
boy,
out
that's a
of the
girl, that's a
grammatical
boy,
class,
that's a
such
girl.
as noun, pronoun, adjective, or verb of a language, and then use it for people. Because before John Money, there wasn't any discussion.
Oh, this is the one that I couldn't see.
History in the Dark. I am your host, Darkness the Curse. And before we begin, as always, thank you so much to my generous patrons, my British rail critics, and of course my underwater train finders. You were the reason why this content remains really serious and sad, and I actually want to warn you all about that right now. I know I try to always keep my content fairly friendly, but it's pretty hard in this instance to accomplish that due to the nature of the discussion. But I think...
Do you support Israel and the Jewish people?
Oh,
now,
no. Mute.
David Reimer was actually born Bruce Peter Reimer on the 22nd of August, 1965, in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. He was actually one of identical twin boys, born to his parents, Jeanette and Ron Reimer. At first, everything was fine with the twins. His twin brother was named Brian, and they were healthy, happy babies until they started struggling with a condition called phimosis. It's not a super rare condition, but the easiest way to deal with the problem generally is simply with circumcision. The boys hadn't been circumcised at birth, like some people tend to do. However, due to their condition, the doctors recommended that this was the best way to solve it. Fair enough. General practitioner
Please hit the
Dr.
like
Jean
button.
Marie Hoot performed the operation, but she used a really, really, really unconventional method known as electrocauterization, which is exactly what it sounds like. And look, as a guy, I'm just like, no. Most doctors would not recommend this particular technique for performing the procedure. And naturally, it didn't go as planned. David's, then Bruce's, organ was burned beyond surgical repair.
Oh,
The doctors
wow.
then chose not to operate on Brian and deal with the phimosis with other means, and he was fine. But naturally, Bruce's parents were really worried about their son's prospects for future happiness and functionality without a part of his body because of this medical error. So they took him to Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore in early 1967 to see a man named John Money. He was a psychologist who had developed a pretty well-known reputation as a pioneer in the field of sexual development and gender identity. Money was a really big proponent of the theory of gender neutrality, that gender identity developed primarily as a result of social learning. It was nurture that resulted in gender roles, and that it could easily be changed with the appropriate behavioral interventions as a child developed. Back in those days, it was actually easier, medically speaking, to transition from male to female than female to male. So Money believed that Bruce would be much happier if he lived as a woman with functioning parts. But Money was also looking to use Bruce as a guinea pig to test his theories out. He genuinely believed in what he was trying to do, and the Reimers had a case with identical twin boys, where one was going through transition and one wouldn't be. Therefore, that it could easily be changed with the appropriate behavioral interventions as a child developed. Back in those days, it was actually easier, medically speaking, to transition from male to female than female to male. So Money believed that Bruce would be much happier if he lived as a woman with functioning parts. But Money was also looking to use Bruce as a guinea pig to test his theories out. He genuinely believed in what he was trying to...
Now, let's fast forward to right now with what's going on with these Epstein files. And all we hear a lot about is DNA and splicing and, you know, mad scientists and procreation and human, whatever that they say that Epstein was trying to practice. Oh, yeah. Ugh.
do, and the Reimers had a case with identical twin boys, where one was going through transition and one wouldn't be. Therefore, he could use Brian, the twin who was fine, as a sort of experimental control, and then view Bruce's development as he, now being referred to as she, grew up. Money, as well as the doctors at Johns Hopkins, persuaded the family to allow this to be done, and at the age of 22 months, Bruce was put through a transition surgery. He was reassigned to be raised as female, and given the name Brenda instead. John Money, of course, chose to continue seeing the Reimer family to provide psychological support, but mostly so we continue analyzing Brenda's development over time. And, I just gotta stop right now. Is this not the most outrageously unethical thing I've ever heard? This is a baby boy who was born as a boy, who went through a tragic accident, and your best call is that, well, if we put them through a transition surgery without their consent, no. Look. I just want to stress this right now. When it comes to trans rights, if you're an adult, a functional adult, and you want to go through that, that's your decision, that's how you feel, that's fine with me. I'm not judging anyone for that. What I am judging is someone forcing this kind of thing on someone who quite literally has no say in the matter.
Right.
He was too young to even speak, let alone understand what was happening, and you think that this is the best course of action. That's what you think, Money? That's what you think. That's what you honestly think. Okay.
Again, here we go with these people thinking they are God. Oh, wow.
Okay. Sure. But even if you think that Money was really coming from a good place, like he really wanted to help these kids, I assure you, this gets so much worse. Now, seriously, because Money also had a lot of interesting ideas regarding how gender identity could easily be established. Money continued to supervise and report on the twins' gender development until they were 13 years old. And during their sessions, he had them involved in something called childhood sexual rehearsal play, which in any other context, in fact, arguably even in this context, sounds really suspicious. But Money theorized that reproductive behavior formed the foundation of gender, so he thought that not actually having them do it, but pretending to, was a key aspect in the development of all primates, including human beings. Now, I don't know what Money's childhood was like, but, okay, look, no.
It was taunted.
That was not normal for me growing up. And I feel like most people would say that that is not, in fact, the case at all. But Money apparently really thought that that's how things worked. So starting at age 6, according to Brian, the twin who hadn't been transitioned, the pair were forced to carry out sexual acts, with David, then Brenda, playing the female role. This is getting straight into pedophilia range, Money.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie. And at one point, he even took a photograph of them doing these activities. Whenever the twins tried to resist doing it because they didn't want to, Money would get angry. Both twins recalled that he was really mild-mannered around their parents, but very, very short-tempered when alone with them. He would frequently make very angry demands, scaring the children who were doing all of this out of fear. This is so...
Sound familiar?
Look, this was already an unethical experiment. It's getting straight criminal at this point. I'm pretty sure this is not how normal psychologists conduct their sessions, like, at all. And Money's rationale for this whole thing was that this rehearsal play was important for a healthy adult gender identity. Both twins were, of course, traumatized by the therapy, horribly so.
Sounds
Brian,
familiar.
in particular, speaking about it with only the greatest amount of emotional turmoil. In order to continue the transition therapy, Brenda obviously had to be given estrogen, because her body, his body, I don't even know what pronouns to use at this point, wasn't going to produce it on its own. And Money continued to issue reports on the progress, indicating that the therapy was a success, that the child's behavior was so clearly
But he was
that
lying.
of an active little girl. He was definitely right. His theory was proven. Definitely. Absolutely. 100%. Would this man lie? Well, kind of. See, Brenda never felt like a girl, even in youth. And between the ages of 9 and 11, she started wondering if she was born in the wrong body. The typical kind of thought that a trans person might have at that age. But this is the opposite situation. She had been born in the right body. She was forced to undergo a transition before she even had any knowledge of such a thing, let alone had the ability to remember it. By the age of 13, Brenda could not deal with the notion of seeing Money ever again, experiencing severe depression. And eventually, on March 14th, 1980, Brenda's parents finally told him the truth about his gender reassignment. He was obviously a bit miffed and upset, and yeah, but in a way, everything started to make sense, since, in his case, he was born in the right body. At the age of 14, he assumed a male gender identity, calling himself David, and he underwent various treatments to reverse the reassignment, as much as medical science could provide anyway. He attempted to live a pretty normal life after that, and on the 22nd of September 1990, he married Jane Fontaine, and would adopt her 3 children, since he couldn't have any of his own at that point. Most of his hobbies included camping, fishing, typical male stereotypes actually, interestingly enough. If anything, David was living proof that Money's theory about gender roles had been completely wrong the whole time. That nurture didn't have anything to do with it, that it was just some people are born a certain way. It's just one of those things. Because every effort was made to convince David he had been a girl. It didn't work. His case received international attention in 1997 when he finally told his story to Milton Diamond, and he persuaded David to allow him to report the outcome in order to dissuade physicians from treating other infants similarly, which I think was a really good idea. People need to know this kind of stuff, that this happened, that this experiment was in fact a failure. Because the most major
And
issue
they
that was
lied
going on was that Money,
to
for
deceive.
30 years after his original
Trying to be
report,
God.
continued to insist that the reassignment had been a success.
Lying.
It wasn't a success. And because of Money's outright lying, the malleability of gender identity became the dominant viewpoint among physicians and doctors, reassuring them that this was kind of the correct decision in certain instances, when, frankly, based on Money's own experiment, it wasn't. Money, interestingly enough, never spoke publicly about the experiment because that might, give him away. He died on July 7th, 2006 at the age of 84. And as for the twins, well, I'm sad to say that they didn't live long, full lives. The trauma that was inflicted on them by Money during their childhood never really left them. And David's brother, Brian, died from an overdose of antidepressants on the 1st of July, 2002. Then, just 2 years later, David's wife Jane told him that she wanted to separate for personal reasons. 2 days after that, David drove to a grocery store parking lot with a shotgun.
Oh, da 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 ba da. Let me move past that. Bless his heart.
It's a free phone. Say I got my first phone.
This stuff is crazy. It's just mental
twins, and the experiment shouldn't be understated.
experiment,
No kid should
torture.
have gone through what either twin suffered, in particular David, who had his identity stripped away from him in an effort to prove a theory that was proven wrong by the experiment itself.
And lied
He just
about.
acted like he'd been right the whole time, when in fact he couldn't have been more wrong. It's pretty clear that when it comes to gender identities, it's a heck of a lot more complex than just nurture. If that was the case, David wouldn't have been David. He would have stayed Brenda. But that didn't happen. As far as what we can learn from this, well, I'll leave you guys to argue about that in the comments.
And then let me go back to this one real quick. And then I'm going to end this. Wow. They've been playing God all this time. Directed to...
But John Money didn't see it this way. John Money was born in 1921 in a small place in New Zealand called Morrinsville. Since nothing seemed out of the ordinary in his early years, I will fast forward a decade or two. Now, he immigrated to the United States in 1947 and received his PhD from Harvard University in 1952.
There go another
John was
Harvard.
a psychologist and sexuologist. I think that's how it's pronounced. By the early 1950s, he finished his studies and was already starting to be famous for his new ideas. At Harvard, John spent a lot of time thinking about what makes boys boys and girls girls. He had a big new idea. Being a boy or a girl wasn't just about your body. It was among the very first people in history to take gender out of the normal grammatical class, such as noun, pronoun, adjective, or verb of a language, and then use it for people. Because before John Money, there wasn't any discussions about whether you had a gender or not. People had a sex, and that was male or female. But John Money didn't see it this way. Basically, he invented the idea that we have this psychological gender and that we were born gender neutral. This wasn't to say that he was oblivious to the fact
Inez,
that
I'm
there were
sorry. I
physical
done missed all of
differences.
this.
But
I'm
aside
sorry.
from that, Money's theory about whether you had a gender or not. People had a sex, and that was male or female. But John Money didn't see it this way. Basically, he invented the idea that we have this psychological gender and that we were born gender neutral. This wasn't to say that he was oblivious to the fact that there were physical differences. But aside from that,
is he
Money's
sick?
theory was also about what your family, friends, and institutions taught you. That whether you are masculine or feminine is imposed on you from society. And because he believed that gender is a social construct, he had this revolutionary idea that because you were born gender neutral, a boy could be raised as a girl and a girl as a boy. But a theory has to be put to the
This
test
is why
to
he
be
kept
proven
saying,
right.
wanted
So he
about
did. And that
DNA.
happened with the experiment of David Reimer.
Epstein was
But before I
mimicking
tell
this
you
type
that part of
stuff.
the story, you have to understand this part first. Well, Money believed that society starts teaching you how to act like a boy or a girl at a very young age. So your family, friends, and even TV shows tell you what toys to play with, how to dress, and how to behave. And obviously, there is some truth to this. We're obviously influenced by these things, especially as kids are easily manipulated. When he called this gender role, he said that this is how people learn to act their gender, not just because they were born that way. So in a nutshell, John Money thought being a boy or a girl isn't just about how you're born, but it's also about how society tells you to act. This is also what you could call a social construct, which is an idea that has been created and accepted by the people in a society. John Money was a professor of pediatrics and medical psychology at Johns Hopkins University from 1951 until his death. He made up the words as gender role and sexual orientation. By doing this, he became one of the very first people to talk about these ideas. Now, the words sex and gender have a long and intertwined history. In science speak, sex is focused on the biological aspect and is about if you are male or female based on your body parts. Gender has to do with how you feel and express yourself, like if you're masculine or feminine. What's interesting is that this separation is a 20th century thing, and as you might know, it's still a very, very hot topic, and probably why you clicked on this video in the first place. But remember, while experts try to keep them separate, people often tend to blend the two together. So it's a very complicated topic, and is why we have to keep talking about it. But let me just try and break it down for you, plain and simple, what gender and sexuality is. And just a quick disclaimer, I am
Money probably wanted to be
expert
absolutely Monty. I was thinking the same thing. He was confused.
There are many aspects to it, but in there is 3 major pieces to the puzzle, which is what I will be focusing on. You have sex, gender identity, and gender expression. The biological sex is a multi-dimensional biological construct based on anatomy, physiology, genetics, and hormones, and all animals, including humans, have a sex. Gender identity refers to a person's internal and individual experience of a gender, which may or may not correspond to their sex at birth. Gender expression is the way in which people show their gender identity, especially in the way they dress and behave. Now, sexuality is about your sexual feelings, thoughts, attractions, and behaviors towards other people. You can find other people physically, sexually, or emotionally attractive, and all those things are a part of your sexuality. Sexual orientation is a major part of one's sexuality. Sexual orientation is usually divided into these categories. I'll assume you know the first 3, which is heterosexual, bisexual, and homosexual. And then there is pansexual, who are attracted to people of any gender identity. And then we have asexual, who are not sexually attracted to other people. When it comes to John Money, the silence around him is particularly troubling for modern-day feminism, which often champions the idea that gender is a social construct. But here's the catch. There's a reason not many people talk about him anymore. He did an experiment with someone named David Reimer that was supposed to prove he was right, but the experiment went terrible. John Money had big ideas, but ideas need to be tested. So he decided to do an experiment that would involve young kids, and in fact, it involved infants.
Why young
now, he
kids?
wanted to prove that his theories were right, that being a boy or a girl was something society taught us, not just how we were born. But here's the thing. Sometimes when people want to prove something really, really bad, they tend to make mistakes. Now, David Reimer was born in 1965. He was originally named Bruce, and his identical twin was named Brian. For the sake of keeping things simple, I will keep calling him David. When David and his twin brother, Brian, were 6 months old, they were both diagnosed with phimosis, a condition affecting the foreskin. Eager to resolve the issue, their parents were advised to consider circumcision, a medical procedure with a history spanning over 15,000 years. But apparently their doctor, Dr. Hoot, chose to stray from the traditional surgical methods and used a riskier technique known as electrocauterization? It's called? I don't know. Anyways, this decision obviously led to a catastrophic outcome. The procedure failed, leaving David with irreversible physical damage. In contrast, Brian, who didn't undergo the surgery due to
that sounds like that may be Epstein. Don't he have some deformity down there?
Without any medical intervention. As you can imagine, David's parents.
I mean, I'm joking, but I'm not. Didn't they say Epstein had some type of, lemon, some flatbird lemon? I mean, some deformity or something.
Confused. What should they do now? They had a boy without his manly body part. But that's when they saw John Money on TV talking about how babies could be raised as boys or girls. It seemed like an answer to their prayers, so they contacted him, and Money was thrilled. He thought this case could prove his ideas to the world. They took him to Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore in the early 1967 to see John Money. David's parents trusted Money and decided to follow his advice. From then on, David was raised as Brenda, which was similar to his first name, Bruce. They gave David dresses, dolls, and even hormone treatments to make her more like a girl. Money kept close tabs on the case, and even writing about it in scientific papers as a big success. But was it really though? During this time, estrogen was given to David during
some
adolescence,
flathead
inducing
lemon,
breast
you know,
development. As David grew older, she felt something was deeply wrong. She didn't like the same things most girls did. She felt lost,
flathead
not
lemon.
happy. Even though Money told her parents that everything was going fine, Money kept saying, give it time, she will adjust. Okay, you think things are fucked up right now? Just wait till you hear this shit. It's true nightmare material. Because according to John Colapinto, who published a biography of Reimer in 2001, the sessions with Money included what Money called childhood sexual rehearsal play. Now, I obviously won't dive deeply into this in
Leave that
case I
alone.
get canceled, but go look it up if you still believe John Money is a saint. But basically, it would involve things like the following. Signed at the age of 6.
They need to dig him up and charge him too.
According to Brian, the twins were forced to act out sexual acts, with David playing the female role. Money made Reimer get down on all four. Brian was forced to come up behind. And yeah,
Oh, wow.
I think you get the idea, so I don't really feel like continuing.
Because this is some of the same stuff that Sasha said they were recording with the minors. This is crazy, man.
Because it's just fucked up and depressing. But if you're for some weird reason still is curious about what happened, you can go check that on his wiki page. At the age of 13 years,
Candace, a show take you down off in there, won't she?
And he told his parents he would take his own life if they made him see John Money again. And I wonder why. Because when David turned 14, the truth was revealed. David learned he was a boy, but raised as a girl. And so John Money's big experiment fell apart. David Reimer's story showed that John Money's big ideas had flaws and even bigger consequences. Money had thought he could play with nature, but nature had its own rules. After learning the truth, David Reimer transitioned back to living as a male.
Okay, so that's repeating the same stuff, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and get on up out of here. And hold on. Let me see. Tap into what's going on. List them and final reports. Let me see something. This is something I had already. A meltdown. Hold on. Yeah, right here. This is how we gonna end on this go round. Let's go.
Demanding to know who witnessed case number 35. House Democrats are demanding to know who witnessed case number 3501.045 is, and why at least 3 of her interviews out of 4 given to the FBI about her interaction with Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were removed from the Epstein files when they were produced to the public. Under what right, privilege, or otherwise were 3 out of the 4 interviews of this material witness in the Ghislaine Maxwell criminal trial were they removed from the pile of documents produced by the Department of Justice? At the same time and in the same breath, they tell the American people that everything has been produced unless it was privileged or unless it was duplicative. And now they're claiming that they didn't produce 3 out of the 4 interviews because they're duplicative. Duplicative of what? The first one? The fact that the FBI back in 5 or 6 years ago interviewed her 4 times, from my experience, indicates that they thought she was a serious and credible witness. Now, I don't know about her allegations. I don't know the credibility of them, but she does have on her cell phone a photo of her with Epstein and the Oversight Committee to the FBI. And now the House Democrats and the Oversight Trump that was provided apparently to the FBI. And now the House Democrats, the ability of them, but she does have on her cell phone a photo of her with Epstein and Donald Trump that was provided apparently to the FBI. And now the House Democrats and the Oversight Committee, led by Representative Garcia, just today are demanding that Donald J. Trump appear before the Oversight Committee and explain why his name is, other than Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, is the most referenced name in the entire pile of documents. We don't want to hear from Hillary Clinton about what she doesn't know about Jeffrey Epstein,
And they
or
knew
Les
that.
Wexner, the disgraced retailer who gave Epstein $1 billion, and his own lawyer had to tell the guy to shut the F up during the testimony. We want to hear from Donald J. Trump. Let's talk about the new reporting and the fact that the Department of Justice has now had to say out loud that we're getting to the bottom of why the 3 out of the 4 interviews for a case number 3501.045 have not been produced. Now, a independent journalist named
Get his
Sonnenberger
ice.
wrote this, and it was published in and for NPR. He also writes for the Washington Post and the New York Times. It matches with a description of a witness. Now, again, I don't know if this is true or not, but the point of this commentary is neither does the FBI, neither does the Department of Justice, because they haven't done the proper investigation. The allegations are that when this witness was 13 years old, she was with Epstein and Trump, that Trump tried to force her to commit oral sex on him, perform oral sex on him, and when she refused and resisted, he assaulted her. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if, I see there's reporting that The Guardian thinks that some of her story seems to be outlandish. Maybe it is, or maybe it's just being filtered through a traumatized 13-year-old survivor's mind. I don't know which it is, but my point is the Department of Justice and the FBI refused to investigate, refused to appoint a special counsel to investigate the relationship between Donald Trump and a convicted child sex trafficker and an indicted child sex trafficker. Why? It's the cover-up. It's the cover-up of the cover-up. We cover it here on Legal AF on Friday. The fact, let me take it from my perspective, having done a fair amount of criminal defense work and had the prosecutors and the FBI on the other side. The fact that a material witness listed in the Ghislaine Maxwell list of evidence was interviewed 5 times or 4 times means the FBI thought it was a serious, incredible batch of information that needed to be pursued. In fact, according to other reporting, that same testimony and the existence of the 4 interviews ended up on a PowerPoint, on a slide deck. If it made it through the whole filtering process and made it there, why wasn't it produced? And the fact that the Department of Justice tries to hide behind the duplicative standard. Now, I get duplication. That means, we got multiple copies of the same thing. And so in checking the boxes and doing the review, somebody said this was duplicative when it wasn't. So now they're trying to argue, I guess, because it was the same interviewee, the person, maybe the same FBI agents, but with different dates. The interviews were on different dates. Somebody got confused, thought it was the same interview 4 times, and only produced 1 copy. Is anybody buying that? So now the Department of Justice is trying to get to the bottom as to why these things were not produced. Now, earlier, at the time they dumped the 3 million pages,
entire
Department of Justice, Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche issued a letter that said this is it, that nothing's been redacted to protect the reputation or because of political power or, to do anything to hide from the fact that these people's names were listed. They're just the victims' names. Well, we know that's not true because there's reporting that Donald Trump got his name scrubbed from the files before they were produced. That's why they've been sitting around for over a year. We know that in February and March last year that the FBI was working overtime to review these things even before they were produced, that a report was presented through Pam Bondi to Donald Trump before the House finally forced the issue and forced Donald Trump's hand by requiring that the executive branch produce. And now we still have this report. Who is this person? I'm not trying to out her. I'm not trying to dox her. She's a victim and needs protection. But the underlying story needs to be examined, drilled down, investigated. Maybe he gets exonerated. But we've said from the very beginning when we were paging through the 3 million pages over the last 3 weeks.
Her name is Katie. Her name is Katie Johnson. What do you mean?
Investigative reports of witness statements. Where are the witness statements?
Yeah, release the files, y'all. Just release the files.
And why are they missing?
Yeah, why are they missing?
Why is this one in particular and so easily
Katie
caught?
Yeah,
by
she was
independent journalism
physically
like Mr. Sullenberger. Because all you had to do is go to,
and
we always have a
SA.
control batch. In this case, the Epstein and Maxwell criminal indictment by the Department of Justice, originally led by Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter, out of the Southern District of New York. So we know what was produced to the defense. We know what was listed as on the witness list. The judges have all released those documents and that information. So we always know, here's the checklist against which we check against what Donald Trump is producing. And we see what's missing by that Epstein and Maxwell criminal indictment by the Department of Justice, originally led by Maureen Comey, James Comey's
Well, she
daughter,
just
out of
got
the Southern
hired
District of New
somewhere.
York. So we know what was produced to the defense. We know what was listed as on the witness list. The judges have all released those documents and that information. So we always know, here's the checklist against which we check against what Donald Trump is producing. And we see what's missing by that compare and contrast. We did it before on the Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF, for instance. We caught that there was correspondence in the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office about, 1 million pages, 1.2 million pages. Suddenly, where were the million pages? Why weren't they produced in the initial batch of 12,500 pages? What was the reason for that? Nobody knew. Nobody understood that. We had to catch it. And then a day later, they said, oh, we've determined there were other documents we haven't gone through. We got to stop the production. Ridiculous. So I want to make it clear. I have a working theory that Donald Trump has been white knuckling this whole time, along with dozens of men and even women around the world, because of the release, and shaking in his boots over the release, because his fingerprints are going to be more on these files and on the relationship, including with women and girls, than was first reported.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've had reporting that in briefing to members of Congress, they were told that there is bad stuff in there about Donald Trump. He knows it. Certain members of Congress know it. Now the American people need to know it. And that's been keeping Donald Trump up at night. So that's always been my working theory, and all of this just fits that narrative. So we demand here on Legal AF that case number 3501.045 and all four interviews with proper redaction of the victim be produced to the American people, and that Donald Trump, following in the wake of the demand by Representative Garcia of the Oversight Committee, that Donald Trump himself submit to a public cross-examination under oath on these issues.
Everybody need to press the issue.
Let's have a subpoena go out to Donald Trump, and let's have that debate at the United States Supreme Court as to whether he's going to be able to be forced to do that or not. I'm going to continue to cover it. You're here on Legal AF YouTube channel. Hit the free subscribe button as we continue to follow.
So y'all, what we think? We think that needs to be pushed? Heck yeah. This is this morning he had a meltdown.
Donald Trump just wrapped up a disastrous press lawn. He's heading to Texas. He was ranting.
Get out of Texas. Hey, Mrs. Tom.
About how he's been exonerated by the release of the Epstein.
Still lying.
Total exoneration. Here, play this clip.
I don't know anything about the Epstein files. I've been fully exonerated.
Then he
just
says
lying.
That Howard Lutnick is such an innocent guy. And that even though Lutnick is all over the Epstein files and lied and claimed he never met
How you know he's a wonderful guy?
In 2005, that Lutnick is the most innocent guy he's ever met. Here, play this clip.
Howard Lutnick. What's your reaction to that?
Well, Howard would go in and do whatever he has to say. He's a very innocent guy. He's doing a good job.
Just take a look at how Donald Trump.
How you know he's a very
ranting and raving during
oh my
press
God,
conference.
innocent guy.
After
Who is very
innocent? 2 days, Trump returned today the White House lawn, sounding exhausted and not looking healthy. Just look at this picture right here. It's utterly just grotesque. Then Donald Trump addressed.
Let me get back so we can see this utterly grotesque.
In New York regarding the Epstein files, and he said, you know what? I like Bill Clinton a lot. He's a really good guy.
Oh yeah.
I feel bad.
He bipolar.
Exhausted and not looking.
Go in and do whatever he has to say. He's a very innocent guy. He's doing a good job.
Just take a look at
How do you
Donald
know
Trump
he's very very
presented
innocent?
to
How do
play
you know
this
that?
clip.
And what does that mean?
What's your reaction to that? Well, Howard would go in and do whatever he has to say. He's a very innocent guy. He's doing a good job.
Just take a look at how Donald Trump physically presented.
Thank you for
while
the
he was
laughing
granted
discos,
rape
Ro
during this press conference.
Thomas. I greatly
After
appreciate it.
disappearing from public view for 2 days, Trump returned today. The White House lawn sounding exhausted and not looking healthy.
He
Just
need
look
his
at this
breathing
picture
treatment.
right here. It's utterly just grotesque. Then Donald Trump addressed the fact that former President Bill Clinton is being deposed today in New York regarding the Epstein files, and he said,
You should
know
be
what? I
next.
like Bill Clinton a lot. He's a really good guy. I feel bad that he's being deposed. They went after me a lot, but, I feel bad for Bill. Here, play this clip.
This is what would happen to your body.
I hope everybody's feeling well. I didn't feel good yesterday.
Day 1, you take your first...
Today? But no, I'm not happy with the way they're going.
Are you concerned at all about President Bill Clinton being deposed and that sets precedent for you and your family?
I don't like seeing him deposed, but,
Well, we gonna love seeing you deposed.
A lot more than that. I don't like this. Look, I like...
Obviously, Donald Trump is terrified of having his deposition taken on this issue, but Bill Clinton is there answering questions. Yesterday, Hillary Clinton was there answering questions, even when these MAGA Republican Congress members were asking her about UFOs and Pizzagate and things like that. And then Donald Trump, of course, had to change the topic because he doesn't want to talk about the Epstein files or how his polling is at historic lows or that the American people absolutely despise and detest him. So now he's got to focus on war, right? War is imminent right now in Iran. The United States likely going to invade.
He wanted to see
Israel. Then talks about regime
He want to see Bubba. Oh, he was so tall and handsome.
He says it would be nice.
He gave Bill a Bubba a
referring to an invasion. But sometimes you have to do it with. That's his pitch to the American people about invading Iran. Here, play this clip.
And has your team told you that if you use the military now, that there will be regime change right away? No, nobody's told me that. You don't know. I mean, nobody knows. There might be and there might not be. It'd be nice if we could do it without, but sometimes you have to do it with. When you looked at we have the greatest military anywhere in the world. There's nothing close. I'd love not to use it, but sometimes you have to.
Are you using it for the wrong purposes?
For a moment, just think about that. His pitch to the American people who are like, what are we doing? You're ripping away our health care. We can't afford homes. Yet again, inflation metrics are showing inflation is surging right now. And you're going to war with Iran. And your pitch is that sometimes you can do it with it. Sometimes you can do it without it. Regime change? That's not even a complete sentence. What are you talking about?
He's sick in the head.
Donald Trump also says when it comes to Cuba, there may be regime change in Cuba. He goes, we'll try to do a friendly takeover of Cuba. We could very well end up having a friendly takeover. A friendly takeover?
He thinks about Bubba.
What is this deranged lunatic?
Ooh, that pickle show is good.
Covering up the Epstein pedosex trafficking ring in general. What is this guy talking about? Here, play this clip right here.
Cuban government is talking with us. They're in a big deal of trouble, as you know. They have no money, they have no anything right now, but they're talking with us, and maybe we'll have a friendly takeover.
Oh, he do look sick.
We could very well end up having a friendly takeover of Cuba.
But what about the post?
After many, many years, we've had a lot of years of dealing with Cuba. I've been hearing about Cuba since I'm a little boy, but they're in big trouble, and we could very well, something could, I think, very positive for the people that were expelled or worse from Cuba that live here. You know, we have people living here that want to go back to Cuba, and they're very happy with what's going on.
And then Peter
He just make up stuff as he go, don't he?
Which calls itself Fox, says, yeah, but Donald, is there a risk here that a strike could turn into a long, drawn-out conflict in the Middle East. Does that concern you that by invading Iran or striking Iran, that could then lead to kind of a massive, bigger war in Iran, a long-term, protracted war in Iran, and that spreads through the Middle East? I mean, it's a fair question, to which Donald Trump says, when there's war, there's always risk. But I've had luck myself. I've had luck. So that's what you're doing
that
this
would
on
be Cuba and
Trump luck,
Iran.
and you have
He's
not
so
had
slow.
luck. You're a
He
felon.
want us to be in the
You're a
war.
sexual
He
abuser.
trying to.
You
He
haven't
want us to stop talking about them Epstein
everything
files.
over and over and over again, and you've destroyed everybody's life while pillaging and looting and stealing for yourself. Here, play this clip.
Yeah, with the options that you've been briefed on for Iran, is there a risk that strikes could turn into a long, drawn-out conflict in the Middle East? I guess you could say there's always a risk. You know, when there's war, there's a risk in anything, both good and bad. We've had tremendous luck with myself, Soleimani, al-Baghdadi. Everything's worked out, and then we do the Midnight Hammer and so many others. Everything's worked out, and we want to keep it that way, but we're going to see.
Never heard luck and war in the same. I know, right?
Pakistan has declared war against Afghanistan, and Pakistan says that Afghanistan is now a colony of India. So after Pakistan helped fund the Taliban, they're now saying the Taliban has become a colony of India. And then there was attacks yesterday, Pakistan on Kandahar, and other areas in Kabul, and other areas in Afghanistan. So a reporter asked Donald Trump, has Afghanistan asked you to intervene? Has anybody asked you to intervene to deal with the war right now between Pakistan and Afghanistan? And all Donald Trump says, I get along well with Pakistan. I just want to let everybody know, I get along great with Pakistan. Here, play this clip.
Pakistan has waged a war against Afghanistan. Have they asked you to intervene? Has anyone reached out to you on that?
Well, I would, but I get along with Pakistan, as you know, very well. Very, very well.
You said that about China.
You have a great
You said
there. You have a great leader.
Now you don't put them into some mess.
A lot. And I think that Pakistan is doing terrifically well. Yeah.
And one of the ways that Donald Trump has completely alienated India was taking the side of Pakistan against India in the war between India and Pakistan, because Pakistan offered to give Donald Trump or recommend Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize and said that Donald Trump stopped the war, and India said, what are you talking about? Trump had nothing to do with stopping the war at all.
Just lying.
He says we were the ones who stopped it. Trump didn't do anything. Trump's claims that
Iran
terrorists
has a copy
stopping
of.
the war is just completely
Oh,
made
where's
up.
the one where that
And
guy
then
said? Oh, hold
Pakistan
on,
created
hold
a crypto
on.
fund that invested in
Let
World
me go
Liberty
back.
Financial, the Trump and Witkoff
Cause oh
family
boy,
crypto, in my opinion, scam. Where they have these foreign leaders invest in their crypto and give them money, and then Donald Trump met with the top military general of Pakistan, who's basically the effective leader there. And so that's why Donald Trump likes Pakistan and takes their side on everything and has alienated America's decades-long trying to court India. And then so India has strengthened its relationships now with Russia at the expense of the United States as a result of everything that Donald Trump is doing. But clearly there's already a war now taking place in the region between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and Trump's basing a military strike on Iran not lasting long on the basis of luck. A reporter asked Donald Trump, sir, are you considering a national emergency around the midterm election? Trump claims, I've never heard of such a thing. Who told you that? Again, more lies from the liar and thief. Here, play this clip.
Sir, are you considering a national emergency? Around the midterm elections? There's been reporting that there's an executive order, proposed executive order about this. Are you looking at that? Are you considering that?
Did he say who told you that?
Donald Trump is asked that question about Governor Pritzker. He says, Governor Pritzker posted on social media, you're planning to steal the midterm election.
Thank you, Mimi.
How do you respond? Donald Trump doesn't deny it. Here, play this clip.
Governor Pritzker posted on social media that they're planning to steal the 2026 midterm elections. In fact, he says the plan is already underway. How do you respond to Governor Pritzker? Well, he's got to focus on crime in his state. The crime in his state's doing very badly. If we went and took care of it, what we would do, just like Washington, D.C., we have no crime. Memphis, it's down 82%.
Man.
Louisiana, you take a look
A
at
cop
Louisiana.
got shot yesterday in
What he
Memphis.
should really do is focus on crime in his state, because there's too much of it.
And then Donald Trump's been making these deranged social media posts all morning. He's been posting fake electoral vote maps from 2020, which claims that he won the 2020 election 305 to Biden 227. And then Donald Trump reposts this account saying people need to be in prison. These are the states
He sure do.
that they stole.
He absolutely needs to be in prison.
Apple, saying Apple News doesn't show enough pro-Trump propaganda on it. He's posting CBS and messages from CBS, which is now state regime media, praising his awful State of the Union. And that's what's going on. Oh, and he's posting more stuff about the ballroom. The ballroom is going to be so grand, the ballroom. So America's right now is on the eve of going to war with Iran. No discussions with the American people other than Donald Trump saying, sometimes you got to do it, sometimes you don't. Luck. Maybe we'll be lucky while he covers up the Epstein files. You tell me what you think. Hit subscribe. Help us get
Okay, y'all, I have it scheduled
Want to stay plugged in?
for 7:30. Hold on, because earlier today, I'm trying to find it early where,
Or Substack at MidasPlus.com.
Stop.
You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filkowski, every episodes of our podcast,
oh, boy,
and more exclusive
oh,
content
Lord,
only
I'm on
available
this
at
thing.
MidasPlus.com.
Hold on. Not her. He said, is this it? No, I thought he...
President Clinton, in his opening, made the most important statement.
Okay, I'm trying to get where he said... Oh, no, he was sitting down talking with somebody. When he said that they have people who have it. Oh, I'm trying to find it where he was talking with somebody. And he was... I know who it was now. Hold on. He was talking and he was saying, how can we get it? How can we get the truth, the documents, if Bondi and them don't do what they're supposed to do? And he said, they have it. They have ways. Hold on. I'm trying to find that. I thought I marked it. Is it this one? Maybe.
One of the reasons that we recommend
Then now I'm
to
gonna
our
end off
wholesale
of this one because
partners
I got
is
it
we
said
know
at
customer service is
7:30.
fantastic. If something
In talking about the SAVE
No.
Act, and he says, why would anybody not want it? There's only one reason. It's because they're trying to cheat. We have to have it. We
No,
must have it.
it's not
So
this
can you
one.
give some insight into why Donald Trump is so hell-bent here on making this happen, and your level of concern that
It's not that one. Dang it. Is it this one?
I'm joined now by Congressman Ro Khanna.
Yeah.
Congressman, thanks for joining me again.
Always a pleasure.
So, Congressman, we have some major news as it relates to the Epstein files. Can you speak about some missing files that implicate Trump that have taken over the news cycle?
Yeah, please hit
This
the
is
like
the
button.
most disturbing development since Thomas Massey and I started the pursuit of the Epstein files issue. And here's what's happened. There is a woman who has accused Donald Trump of sexually abusing her when she was a minor child. There are 4 times
And she is
that
not
the
backing
FBI
down.
interviewed her. Only one of those interviews has been publicly released. Now, you know that if someone is being interviewed 4 times by the FBI obviously took it seriously. The sex trafficking unit there took it seriously. And yet 3 of those interviews are missing. And Roger Schellenberger and the NPR journalist discovered this because there was a document that Massey and I forced release that said that all 4 of those interview memorandum were produced
to Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, during discovery, but they are not public. And so the question is, why the cover-up? What's in those 3 FBI interviews? What did this woman allegedly say about Donald Trump? And why do we not have those documents?
Is there going to be some way to recover those documents?
Well, first of all, they're in clear violation of the law. So public pressure is the first thing. Obviously, people say, well, is it really going to work? It's worked in the past. I mean, we've forced half of the release of the files because of public pressure, but it's not the courts. I mean, you can't just blatantly violate the law. There are people who can sue to make sure that these files actually are released. The question is, have they been tampered with? Have they been blacked out? Have they been damaged? But there are legal ways of getting the documents. And these documents exist in multiple places if they produced them to Maxwell, so they've got to be careful with.
They've been produced in multiple places, and they got to be careful. Y'all hear that?
In multiple places if they produced them to Maxwell, so they've got to be careful with tampering.
They got to be careful with tampering. They know that they have been produced in multiple places.
If they produced them to Maxwell, so they've got to be careful with tampering.
And what are next steps in terms of what you can do on your end to get these documents to the forefront?
We're looking at possibly passing Epstein Transparency Act 2.0. I was talking about Nancy
Lord.
Mason, saying, can we get the forced release of not just these 3 documents, but the survivor statements to the FBI in general. CNN did a analysis, and they found that there are at least 90 or so statements that the survivors made to the FBI that are missing. And those are the most powerful things. That's where the survivors are naming who are the men who engaged in abuse or rape. And so, but to have a case where you have 3 documents missing and the allegations against the President of the United States, this is an enormous scandal.
Well, if the DOJ was willing to flout the law, because that's what they're doing, by withholding these documents, what's to stop them from doing the exact same thing if the Epstein Files Transparency Act 2.0 is passed?
Well, they're claiming privilege, and they're claiming that there's ongoing investigations. I mean, they could do the same exact thing, but it would be much more directed. The Epstein 2.0 bill, saying we want specifically these 302 documents. But my sense is that the most likely outcome is a legal outcome. It is us going to the Southern District of New York, either survivors or Mass Hear Me or someone filing a lawsuit to require these documents to be produced. And any watchdog group could do it as well. Just file a lawsuit in the Southern District of New York to force compliance with the law. And then when we take back the Congress, of course, we can subpoena, and you say, well, they won't comply with the subpoena. That's true, but we could try. The final point is there may be people at the FBI and at the DOJ who recognize what happened is wrong and can become whistleblowers.
Y'all hear that? Are they work? Do they have somebody there that's a mole? Is there a mold in the place?
FBI and at the DOJ who recognize what happened is wrong. People at the FBI and
is
at
there
the DOJ who recognize what happened is wrong and can become whistleblowers.
In terms of bringing this in front of a judge, instead of going on these piecemeal, efforts in front of a judge to get individual pieces of paper released, what about resuscitating your effort along with Thomas Massie to get a special master to oversee all of this, so that it's not like, okay, let's try to get a few 302s here, a few witness testimonies here. Like, this person, having somebody like that in place would negate the need for all of these subsequent court cases where you're going to butt up against Pam Bondi.
Totally agree, and that's why Massie and I proposed this in the first place. And I think our idea is looking now to be more thoughtful and wise. I mean, what we were saying is don't have this determination made by Bondi. Don't have it made by the court of public opinion on Twitter or the internet. Have a special master look at the documents. And imagine if a special master had done these documents and said, these redactions are legitimate, these aren't, here's what we're releasing. You would have had so much more public trust for the whole process. You wouldn't have had the survivors compromised. And so that is the ideal solution. But we're looking at something that is
they shouldn't have fired
a
those 10
huge
FBI
urgent
agents the
issue,
other day.
and that is, did the Department of Justice selectively refuse to release testimony because
what's his name? Jack Smith on their ass,
the
baby.
of the United States. I mean, that is an enormous cover-up if true. And if it's not true,
and
then
I
they
wonder
should just release it or
who
explain why they
is
haven't released it.
the firm that
I want to
Comey.
talk about Hillary Clinton's private deposition. Can I have your reaction to the fact that the first thing that happened
That she
in
got,
this deposition that Republicans,
working with.
you have a lot of Republicans who claim to take this seriously, and yet the first thing they did was create a spectacle by having Lauren Boebert leak a photo to Benny Johnson so they could tweet it out and get the optics that they were so desperate for. How can they both claim that they're taking this whole thing seriously while at the same time turning it into a circus?
Well, Ryan, you know how much I've been passionate about the Epstein Transparency Act, which Massey and I led. I'm a senior member of the Oversight Committee. I didn't show up today because I thought it was outrageous.
This was yesterday.
That Hillary Clinton was being deposed. She has nothing to do with any of this. And it was a total witch hunt. I am showing up tomorrow with President Clinton because I do believe that President Clinton has to answer for what he knew and what his relationship was with Epstein. But to drag Hillary Clinton into this was totally political. You had the leak. You had people asking questions totally unrelated to Epstein. And I think she conducted herself with dignity. And, you know, she set a clear precedent now that is going to be very hard for Donald Trump and Lutnick and others to avoid answering questions. And so, you know, they wasted their time in a circus. The American people see through it. But what they're going to ask themselves is, well, why are Lutnick and Trump and Bondi not answering questions?
Yeah, and I think that's the perfect point here. Was there some recognition by these people that now that they've established this precedent where former presidents and former presidents' family members can be hauled in front of Congress to answer questions about Jeffrey Epstein, do they recognize that that will also apply to the one guy who's at the top of this cover-up? Who one day, by the way, will be a former president?
Well, Trump does. That's why he was saying, oh, I'm not so sure it's a good idea to go after the Clintons. Look, there was the Trump rule, which was that he refused to comply with the subpoena to the January 6th committee. That was the precedent. Now Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have set a new precedent, and that is that former presidents and families testify. And you can be rest assured that once we are in the majority in Congress, one of the first subpoenas is going to be to Donald Trump.
What about the rest of his team, as you were mentioning? There are a number of people in his administration. Howard Lutnick, there was a photo released, and I'm going to put that on the screen, of him on Jeffrey Epstein's island. That was obviously hidden until just now. There's also Kevin Warsh, who's Trump's pick for the Fed chair. Elon Musk is in the file. I mean, there are so many people within Trump's orbit who have been wrapped up in this thing. Is there any reason, at least among your Republican colleagues, why these people aren't also being hauled up to answer questions? If Hillary Clinton, who had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein, is being hauled in front of the Oversight Committee to testify, is there any reason why Howard Lutnick, who was smiling in pictures with the guy, wouldn't also be called in to testify?
Being governed by the Epstein class. It's absurd. All over the world, you're seeing prosecutions and resignations. Just today, the World Economic Forum CEO resigned. You've had the former Prince Andrew prosecuted, investigated. The Lord Mendelsohn arrested. You've had the former Norwegian Prime Minister arrested. And Lutnick, who's all over the files, who lied about his relationship with Epstein, who had alleged business dealings with Epstein, is still sitting there as America's ambassador to the world for business. He needs to resign. He needs to be hauled in front of Congress. And every person in a senior position who's had ties and allegations to Epstein in the Trump administration needs to come before our committee and offer an explanation and explain to the American public what they were doing in their judgment. You know, that's what we need to be worried about with the people currently ruling in this country, not someone who was in office or even a first lady 30 years ago.
Is there any interest by your Republican colleagues, who obviously hold the subpoena power in the majority and not in the minority? Is there any interest by your Republican colleagues to bring some of these people forward? Or is it just that, you know, as long as you have proximity to Trump, you've got a magic force field around you?
Luke, yep. Hi, Candace. Candy. Thank you.
Some of them, Nancy Mace and others, have said that they would support something. We're going to file for a subpoena and try to force the issue. But the reality is they may say that publicly, but when it comes to the vote of subpoenaing, they're very, very hesitant to do anything that's going to offend Donald Trump, but they're losing credibility, not just, Brian, and we've discussed this, not just with independents and Democrats. They're losing Republicans. They're losing MAGA voters. The most unpopular people in the Trump administration right now are Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Lutnick, because they see them part of the swamp that Donald Trump said he would drain.
He
in
is the
terms
swamp.
of next steps now, what is next for you to get some more accountability? And you have been, dogged in your pursuit of this. So what do you anticipate is going to be the next step?
It killed me. Who did they think the swamp
We're
was?
going to call for a select committee to have these Epstein hearings, or at least have oversight, have Epstein hearings. But we are going to continue to pursue legal options with the Southern District of New York to get these files. We're going to continue to be very vocal about accountability for Lutnick and others in the administration, and other rich and powerful men who have emailed saying they visited the ranch or the island. And by the way, this story is not going away, because every day we see some new resignation, new revelation. People are going through these files and finding more and more and more. So Massey and I will continue to call for accountability. And then there are more legislative options as well. But what we've seen is that when we keep pushing, when we keep fighting, more things get released.
And finally, Congressman, why do you think it is that, amid all of this jingoism about American exceptionalism, and amid the fact that a huge issue in the 2024 campaign was exposing this criminal cabal of pedophiles, and that's largely owed to the right wing in this country, that when this stuff is finally actually coming to light, and a lot of it borne out, that the only accountability is being had overseas, and yet right here in this shining city on a hill where we beat our chests about democracy, can we not find a single fucking person who is going to lose their job over their involvement in all of this?
Yeah, at least not in government. I mean, they've had people who have lost their jobs in the private sector, and more pressure is being put, but we've had no investigations, not even of Les Wexner, who said that even with all his ties, no investigation, no prosecutions. And the irony is that there were two American congresspeople, Thomas Massey and I, who got these files released. Our names are known all over England, I'm told. And yet in the United States of America, even though there were members of Congress, American members of Congress who started this, we have no accountability. Sarah Fitzpatrick tomorrow has a huge piece in The Atlantic coming out talking about how we got these files released and why there is such a jarring hypocrisy of how the rest of the world is reacting and what we're doing here in America. It's a wake-up call, obviously, for the protection cult around Donald Trump, but it's also an indictment for our country that we aren't taking the survivors more seriously. And the final point I would make is that we still have the opportunity to push for accountability and justice for these survivors, and we need to, and that this is going to be a defining moment for the nation.
Well, look, I know that I can speak on behalf of everybody watching right now in pleading with you to keep going. If it wasn't for the work that you and Thomas Massey are doing, and for the survivors who continue to speak out on a daily basis, this would not go anywhere, because we can't rely on these Republicans, especially the ones who are chairing their committees, to make sure that this sees the light of day. So very grateful for the work that you're doing, as I mentioned, on a weekly basis, and I appreciate you taking the time today.
Always appreciate it. Thank you for shining the light. One final
Okay,
point,
y'all,
Brian,
I'll
is
be
that
back. I got it scheduled for 7:30. I'm going to try to be charged up by then, okay? Okay, good people? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? It's Friday. We're going live. Can y'all hear me? It's with Clinton. Can y'all hear me? Hello? Hello, hello, hello. Maybe y'all can't hear me. Okay.